Chapter 361 UU. Alvida turned pale. Raising his hand, the endless sword chi edge was swollen. Perona waved to the side. On the spot, the ground burst. A powerful sword chi storm formed, accompanied by countless screams. A terrifying gully spread directly to the sea, producing horror explode. The huge wind and waves lifted Alvida's dress, revealing the pair of smooth and slender white legs. But now, no one is paying attention, because many surviving people are all looking at the road that hasn't stopped breathing in horror. Huge abyss. This woman, Vivi, just raised her hand and wiped away the mountains and mountains in front of her. Monster, this is a monster. At this moment, whether it was a pirate or an aboriginal name, they were all lying on the ground, shivering. Bastard, what have you done to my men? Looking at the younger brother who had lost most of the money, Alvida was not afraid, but rather angry, and shot at Perona. The weak slender hand, facing Perona, hit him. Feeling the thin layer of armament on the show, Perona frowned and Vivi frowned, because it was too weak. Standing still and allowing this woman to attack, it is estimated that he will not be able to break his defense. How did this woman survive until now? And still in the new world? Damn. After attacking a few punches, Alvida actually found that the opponent was motionless. This man was stronger than any enemy she had encountered before. Tell me about the whereabouts of the Clown King. Raising his hand, Perona wanted to grab Alvida's hand, but every time he grabbed it, it was slipped away, and Perona couldn't help but be surprised. Humph, stupid man, I'm the smooth man who ate the smooth fruit, and no one can catch me without any friction. Arrogant face, this is the capital that Alvida can survive in the new world. Any man who has plans for her can't even catch him, let alone do that kind of thing, even if he can find a hole. As long as Alvida is unwilling, let it be whether you are an African eel or an enoki mushroom, you will never find the hole. However, from the side, if anyone can get Alvida, when doing that kind of thing, it is estimated that it will be very different from other women, at least in terms of feeling. No one can compare. The vertical silk is smooth, that's true slip. With contempt for Isho, Perona's arms boil over, and he grabs Alvida again, this time in the face. How can you catch me? Full of astonishment, Alvida was stunned. Idiot woman, it seems that you haven't met armament. He pulled Alvida and put on seastone gloves to limit the opponent's ability, ready to take her back to the First Emperor pirates for disposal. Soaring up and stepping on Napoleon's body, Perona looked at the ground solemnly, and said coldly, from now on, this place will belong to the First Emperor pirates, and any rebels will be wiped out. After speaking, without waiting for anyone to answer, Napoleon turned into a streamer and disappeared directly into the air. The clouds flew quickly, and Alvida pushed Perona away, standing staggeringly at the tip of the sword, feeling a little frightened by this dangling wind, which lifted her hair and swayed her skirt, as if the rose in the water is very tempting. Almost unsteady, watching the surrounding sea of clouds retreat rapidly, Alvida's face turned pale, and her little heart was beating at a high speed, obviously stimulated. On the next journey, Perona took Alvida to push the entire quest line horizontally, and the forces resisted along the way were directly wiped out by Perona's thunder method. During this time, Alvida really realized the terribleness of this woman. Unconsciously, she went through several levels of mood changes, from fear to indifference to weirdness. The New World, a large island close to the Great Root, is now called the Clown Land. Buggy, the King of Clowns. Originally, each of the 5 emperors' sites was a super large island, but now, even if there are super large islands in the New World, Buggy dare not do it, because these are all places under the rule of the First Emperor pirates. So, secondly, Buggy can only occupy this large and marginal island, without even announcing it, so far, no one knows that Buggy's base camp is here. This is why, Buggy is the most mysterious 5 emperors, because the general pirate challenger is sent by him to solve it. For this reason, no one knows what the strength of Buggy is. And because of Buggy's mysterious sense of no trace, his prestige became stronger, and he gradually began to secure the position of the fifth emperor. But now, this buggy god is a little restless after receiving the words of his subordinates. What you said is true. In a hidden house, surrounded by big trees, if you don't pay attention, you can't even see it from the sky. I saw at the top, a man with a big red nose, a little short in height, wearing a large cloak, and now calmly looking at a pirate kneeling on one knee below. Captain Buggy, what I said is true. Even the boss of Alvida was kidnapped by the other party. You must lead us to capture the first Emperor pirates and retake the boss of Alvida. Below, is one of Alvida's younger brothers. At this moment, he is looking at the man on the high platform with a frenzy on his face. He believes that as long as Captain Buggy makes a move, any first emperor and any first emperor pirates will be surrendered. It makes no sense. We didn't attack the first emperor pirates, but the first emperor pirates attacked our buggy pirates, courting death. Captain Buggy, please give an order to fight the first emperor pirates. Let the first emperor pirates know the fate of offending our buggy pirates. Next to it, under the main seat of Buggy, 10 seats were already filled with people. All of them were the big pirates in Impel Down, and the leader was Mr. 3. Now, these pirates are all looking at Buggy fervently, wanting Buggy's order, and then they break the first emperor pirates, and then the first emperor pirates are theirs. Hearing his subordinates' boiling fighting intent, Buggy's face remained unfathomable from beginning to end, but no one knew that his back was sweating coldly. Mr. Point 3 sitting below kept wiping the hot sweat on his forehead, and even kept swallowing saliva. Okay, I'll handle this matter. Recently, I'm cultivating a divine art. As long as the divine art is complete, I will go to the first emperor to settle the account. A big wave of his hand, it's very hockey, Buggy's winning ticket is in hand, as if bathed in the light of God, almost blinding everyone's eyes. Captain Buggy. Captain Buggy. Below, some fanatical fans, all with red eyes and a look of admiration. It's all gone. Mr. Point 3 comes with me. Pressing down with one hand stopped his subordinates from shouting. Buggy glanced at Mr. 3, then left the main hall and walked towards the back room. Few minutes later, Buggy sat opposite Mr. Point 3 with a solemn expression. Mr. 3, what do you think of this matter? Buggy changed his expression of winning. He kept taking a deep breath and patted his chest. Captain, do you want to take action? Or, continue to conceal yourself? Mr. Point 3 looked strangely at this timid captain. When we first got along with him, Mr. 3 was a dog, because this captain is too weak. For the weak, he can be as arrogant as possible. Arrogant, but if it is a strong man, then he will definitely clamp his tail and be a man, as much as he wants. Most of the time, he was bragging. He could easily fool people into doubting his life, and he was dead set on him. For many things, there was no need for Buggy to do anything at all, and many brainless men could fight for him without fear of death. Solved. Mr. Point 3's impressions of this man at the beginning, but after years of getting along, Mr. Point 3 saw a lot of different places, often inadvertently. Mr. Point 3 noticed a lot of problems. That is, this man, it is not so timid and fearful on the surface. On the contrary, it is extremely terrifying. A few years ago, as a last resort, this man took a shot. Although he tried his best to cover up the coincidence, Mr. 3 began to suspect this bragging captain after careful observation. Afterwards, the more he observed, the more terrifying he became. The final result made him even begin to doubt his life, just because this man was not only weak, on the contrary, he was outrageously strong. In the end, Buggy didn't hide Mr. 3, so far, only Mr. Point 3 knows Buggy's hiding. 2. Chapter 362 _ Now I don't want to expose myself. People who are often low-key can live to the end and become winners in life. Shaking his head, Buggy rejected the idea of fighting the first Emperor pirates. Then what shall we do next? Wait. At this moment, Buggy is completely like a different person, giving people a great contrast. If people who are familiar with this scene see this scene, they will definitely begin to doubt life. First Emperor Pirates, the Central City Hall. Most of the people who were dispatched to subdue the Whitebeard Sea area have returned, and the only ones who have not returned are Shiryu and Kuzan. In fact, Tessero and the others only went to the scene, and the rest was completely handed over to the First Emperor's army, so they would return so quickly if nothing happened. But these 5 or 6 days have passed. It's time to come back. They should have come back, but the 2 strongest people haven't come back yet. What's the situation? As for worry, no one is worried. After all, the strength of Perona and Kuzan is there. Someone's been restless recently. In the side hall, where Nami and Main work, Tessero is sitting on a chair at this moment, reporting on the capture of the Whitebeard pirate territory this time. It's the king of the 5 clowns. Handling government affairs, Nami looked at the information in her hand. Long time ago, there was news. Main, who was on the side, had a rare leisure time today. She was drinking tea with little smoke. She was wearing a smoky purple tube-top dress, which was extremely beautiful and sexy. This new successor to the 5th Emperor is a bit bloated. Look at these reputations, he is stronger than the captain. Tessero smiled, sarcasm in his eyes. The king of clowns, no one knows how strong he is. There are too many rumors about him. There are only 2 possibilities for this king of clowns. Either he has a false reputation, or he is extremely powerful. Which do you think he belongs to? Nami is a little interested in this buggy god, because this person is really mysterious. Except for what is known on the surface, this person is like a mystery, full of uncertainty. The trainee crew of One Piece, King of Pirates, can point at the redhead and yell at the eagle eye. Whether these are true or not, this man is not easy. Vivi's pretty eyebrows trembled, and Ma Yin laughed out loud and analyzed it, because her intuition told her that this clown was not easy. Main, don't you think too highly of you? Tessero looked disdainful. No matter how he looked at this man, he was just a clown. What government affairs are you talking about? Just when Nami and others were guessing, Chinluo walked out from the side hall. I heard you guys just talking about the king of clowns. Chinluo took a sip of tea and asked. Captain, when we were cleaning up the Whitebeard waters, we encountered some rubbish that stretched out our hands, behind the newly appointed 5 emperors, the king of clowns. Tessero was still full of disdain, and did not take this so-called king of clowns seriously. Captain, this is the information of the king of clowns. After speaking, Tessero got up and handed Chinluo the information sent after the investigation. While drinking tea, Chinluo watched. Just for a moment, he looked at a general idea. This clown is not easy. After reading the legends on the materials and some obvious deeds, Chinluo vaguely remembered this person. That's right, after so many years, Chinluo has almost forgotten about the character Buggy. When he was watching the anime, he probably didn't have any ideas. He just felt that this guy was really like a clown and only bragged. But now, in this real world, Chinluo can no longer have the original idea. Captain, you can't read it wrong. What's wrong with this guy? Tessero flipped through the information again, but no matter how he looked, he couldn't see anything of value. A person who is incompetent is not qualified to be a trainee crew member of One Piece, King of Pirates. When he and the red-haired trainee are the same trainee, they dare to join forces to fight against Whitebeard. Do you still think it is very simple for such a person? Chinluo just gave an example. After all, in this world of the weak, one cannot live long without any ability. There are so many people in the ocean. Why does Buggy have the right to become One Piece, King of Pirates with the redhead? Trainee crew. Some people may say that maybe Roger saved Buggy and then kept it. This is just nonsense. If Buggy is really so unbearable, then keeping it will be a hindrance. Think about it. What kind of enemy is Roger facing? After many battles, but so far, Buggy is still alive and well. Just by luck, it can't do this. No way. Is this guy really not easy? Tessero touched his chin, still in disbelief. No matter how simple he is, since he dares to reach out, he must be prepared to be chopped off. Throwing the information on the table, Chinluo looked indifferent. But Captain, recently we have to deal with Red Hair, the king of clowns. Nami hesitated. Leave it for now and wait until the Red Hair is resolved. For Chinluo, Red Hair is the main goal at present. As for Buggy, although he has become the 5th emperor, there is really no top subordinate who can take it out. At least there is no king of clowns in the sea now. There are minions who can match the level of admiral. After talking about the king of clowns, Chinluo changed the topic. Kuzan and Perona haven't come back yet. Not yet. The expressions of Tessero and the others were a little weird. Has there been a letter saying anything? Chinluo frowned and Vivi frowned. It was hard to imagine that these two guys would fall off the chain. According to the news from the First Emperor's army who took over Whitebeard's territory, Kuzan rode a bicycle. It's going to be relaxing, and it's totally on vacation, so. Mane swept her hair to the roots of her ears, and her expression was also a little strange. With that guy's lazy personality, he can do such a thing. What about Shiryu? As for Kuzan, Chinluo probably guessed it, and there is no surprise. Let this guy go out to sea to perform tasks, and he can do things in one day. He can drag you on for 5 or 6 days, 1 hour of which to solve the problem, and the rest of the time are on vacation. Perona seems to bring a girl back. PFF'd. Chinluo, who was drinking tea, was so frightened that he spat out, because this news was really too hot. Lily. No. My red and blue maid will be destroyed. Chapter 363 _ What did you say? Chinluo coughed and looked at Nami in disbelief. A letter from the First Emperor's army says that Perona has caught a very interesting woman. At first, Nami was shocked when she received the news, thinking that her rival was gone. But the First Emperor's army sent a letter, swearing frankly, full of affirmation, as if he had seen it with his own eyes. In fact, it's all to blame for rumors, because the First Emperor's army has always been behind Shiryu, so everything on the island was not very clear at the beginning. Since it is not clear, then ask. This question is unbelievable, and all kinds of unbelievable things have just appeared. 1 past 10, 10 past 100, can give you 7 or 8 versions. For example, one of the versions was said by a Wai-chun girl in that country. Said that at that time, Perona stepped on the colorful clouds, landed in front of the woman, fell in love at first sight, knelt down on one knee, and prayed to the woman to become her girlfriend. There is also a version that the woman is ugly, but she is kind-hearted and has a unique temperament. For this reason, she attracted the ghost sword Perona of the First Emperor pirates, and then fell in love. It's a mess, only what you can't guess, nothing you can't think of. Whether it's true or not, we'll know when the guy comes back. Eyes are 26 strange, I don't know why. Chinluo still has some expectations. Who is the woman that Perona brought back? That's interesting. In a blink of an eye, a month passed by in the blink of an eye. Half a month ago, Kuzan and Perona returned to the First Emperor pirates one after another. Kuzan was as lazy as ever, and Perona really brought a woman back. Woman's name is Alvida. She is a person with the ability to slippery fruit. She has a smooth skin surface. All objects that come into contact with the skin will slip away. When you go barefoot, it is just like wearing roller skates. Divine power. And Alvida, to be honest, was a little apprehensive to see these legendary monsters. In the back garden of the imperial city, everyone gathered together and was having a banquet. Alvida eventually joined the First Emperor pirates. Don't ask, Ask is forced to join. The sunset is sinking in the west, almost dusk, the corner of the sky, and countless fiery clouds are suspended, forming a variety of patterns, and the scenery is pleasant. This scene, coupled with the floating islands of the First Emperor pirates, is like a starry sky, and the hazy charm of the embellishment is full of miracles and vastness. The mountains and rivers, the city suspended in the sky, all show the beauty and nobility of the First Emperor pirates. The new day is still very lively, but compared to the prosperity outside, The Great Root, the Kingdom of Shemales. It has been more than a month since the last Zo Island incident, and during this month, because of the deaths of Ace and Sabo, Luffy had a direct mental breakdown. For this reason, he slept for a whole week. Almost never came back. And after waking up, I didn't dare to accept the reality, and my spirit was tired for a while, and I almost couldn't bear it for the second time, and it completely collapsed. For 3 whole days, Luffy cried for 3 whole days. On that day, the entire Shemale kingdom was shrouded in a heart-piercing sadness. That despair, remorse, and powerlessness deeply tormented the entire island. It was not until the arrival of Zoro and others that Luffy gradually returned to normal. But since then, Luffy has changed. He is not as optimistic and heartless as before. Now even if there is a plate of meat in front of him, he will not gobble like before. He is completely haggard. If it weren't for Nami and others, it is estimated that Luffy would not be able to live anymore. In the Shemale Kingdom, deviating from the center of the city, there is a huge tree beside a huge lake, but now, under this tree, there are 2 more tombstones. Brother Ace. Brother Sabo. A very simple tombstone, but it was carved out by Luffy, and these words were handed over by Nami. This month, whether it's Luffy or Sanji and others, the mood is not very good, because they still have partners to help. Luffy, cheer up. Chopper's eyes were red and tears were streaming down his face, looking very pitiful. Zoro, Sanji, Usopp, Chopper, Frankie, sorry I didn't protect Robin and Brook. Turning around, Luffy burst into tears, and in his heart, he was full of self-blame. I am still so weak, even Ace and Sabo died for themselves, and Robin and Brook, in order not to hurt their partners, willing to die, my brother, this captain, really useless. Luffy. Seeing Luffy kneeling on the ground with tears pouring down like rain, Usopp and the others couldn't help it. They also knelt on the ground, hugged Luffy, and burst into tears. Wow. Wow. Robin, Brook, _____. Chopper kept wiping away his tears, but he couldn't stop it. And Zoro, with a sullen face, clenched his fists, his nails sinking into his flesh and blood. He also hates himself for being too weak to even protect his comrades, and still wishing to become the world's greatest swordsman. A wave of anger and unwillingness burst through Zoro's chest, making it hard for him to breathe. As for Sanji, he smoked a cigarette silently, lowered his head, and his face was extremely gloomy. Since you realize that you are weak, you should cultivate until you can defeat your opponent. Falling from the sky, a deep voice sounded, and I saw the bear followed by the dragon, standing on the ground. The appearance of the dragon stopped the crying for a while. Zoro and Sanji nodded, and said hello. For this reason, Zoro and others did not get close or alienated, even if this man was Luffy's father. Because of them, they don't even have the qualifications to blame each other, just because the strength of the two sides is not at the same level. Are you really my father? At this moment, Luffy raised his head, wiped away his tears, and looked at the familiar man slightly angrily. Yes. Long did not hesitate, just nodded affirmatively. Then why didn't you save Ace and Sabo and Robin and Brook? Fists tightly, Luffy stared at the dragon and shouted angrily, you obviously have that power, why do you stand by and watch all this, why? For this father, Luffy had no feelings for him, so he couldn't talk about being close and holding grudges, but the incident on the island of Zou made Luffy full of anger towards this father. Because I can't save it. Long's face was very dull. He had also thought about what it would be like to meet this son, but he didn't expect that it would be under such circumstances. They all say that you are the leader of the Revolutionary Army. You are very strong and powerful. Why can't you save it? Complaining, at this moment Luffy, his head is in chaos, he desperately wants to vent, so he yelled at the dragon. Because just by saving one of you, countless revolutionary troops lost their lives because of this. With a serious expression, Long looked at this helpless, roaring son with an indescribable dullness in his heart. If that's the case, why did you save me? why didn't you save Ace and Sabo? Luffy cried out in tears. Crack. Suddenly, Long Yi slapped Luffy and slapped Luffy out, causing the entire ground to crack and creating a strong storm. Your brother died for you. If you were the son of my dragon, you wouldn't be so weird as you are now. Look at your friends, they are still waiting for you to cheer up. Don't you just has it been negative like this? Now you should find a way to become stronger, then take back your companions and avenge Ace and Sabo, not just cry like you are now. Hate that iron is not steel. Long admits that he was wrong, but as the leader of the Revolutionary Army, he is doomed not to act on his will, not to mention, the person above him will not allow him to do so. The floor was messy, and Luffy lay haggard on the ground, looking up at the sky blankly, as if Ace and Sabo were smiling at him there. Chapter 364 Luffy. Biting his lip, Chopper looked at Luffy, who was slumped with heartache, and cried, Luffy, Robin and Brook are still waiting for us, we must go and save them. Luffy, you're the man to be the One Piece King of Pirates, I don't believe you can be beaten so easily. Tears could not stop overflowing his eyes. Usopp and Chopper stood together, all trusting Luffy. Luffy, you and us, no matter what, we'll keep going. Sanji put out his cigarette with a serious expression on his face. If Luffy was really passive like this, then the team would really fall apart. Yeah, I have you guys, Robin and Brook are still waiting for us. Sitting up, Luffy gritted his teeth and regained his energy. Since you are my father, then I ask you one thing, I want to become stronger, I want to cultivate. When they woke up, Zoro and the others had already told Luffy that they still had time to wait for the gap between the Red Hair and the First Emperor's War, and this time was the opportunity for them to become stronger. And us. Zoro and the others also bent down, please, they all want to become stronger. Then prepare for death. Long was calm, looking at Luffy and Zoro and others with high fighting spirit, his words were very cautious. We're not afraid. Even Usopp and Chopper looked firm at the moment. Okay, Long did not refuse, but nodded in agreement. For this reason, according to the Sabayati Archipelago incident, Luffy and others, once again fell into the second Hell-style training, the goal, revenge. The next day, the red-haired sea area was urgently mobilized. The power that the red-haired has possessed over the years has begun to show. Nearly 100 big pirate groups, a total of more than 300,000 elite pirates, have gathered densely to countless distances not very far. On the super large island group. This is the second time that the Red Hair has exposed all his powers except for the position of the 5 emperors. These 100 big pirate groups may usually go their separate ways, but under the order of the Red Hair, some famous pirate groups scattered on the sea began to gather. Because their emperor has spoken, he is going to start a war with the first emperor pirate group, the top overlord in the New World. Among them, these more than 300,000 elites almost all exist as one enemy against 10. Perhaps the real number is far more than this, but you must know that the opponents of this war are the first emperor pirates. For this reason, many weak the pirates are not even qualified to participate in the war. This is also a redhead. Why is it qualified to sit on the throne of the 5 emperors? Because in the face of this power, even the real power of Whitebeard, Kaido, and Bigmom is not comparable. The amount of power is not the factor that determines everything, because there are many powerful people, like Marine Admiral, only one person needs to be dispatched to resist 100,000 soldiers. What can really make the redhead sit firmly in the position of the 5 emperors is its own strength and those powerful partners. Otherwise, no matter how many forces it has, it will not have much effect. After all, a monster like Whitebeard, if you punch it, I don't know how much to die. 5 emperors, which one is not tens of thousands of forces? The real decision-making is still its own power, so the power of Red Hair is unexpected but unexpected. Now, in terms of power in the ocean, who can be stronger than the first emperor pirates? Tens of millions of escorts, millions of first emperor's army. Apart from the world government and the revolutionary army, no other force can compare. At best, the Red Hair exists in the form of a pirate group, but the first emperor pirates, the revolutionary army, and the world government exist in the form of a country, so the two sides are destined to take different paths. Moreover, there was no sign of this war. After some forces on the sea got the news, the two sides had already collided. This time, no matter who wins or loses, it is destined to be only one step away from the position of One Piece, King of Pirates. For this reason, the meaning of this war is very different. Whitebeard, Kaido, Bigmom, died in the hands of the first emperor successively. As for the old 5 emperors, only the red-haired one remains, and the new 5 emperors, Fire Fist Ace, also fell in the hands of the first emperor. As for the last 5 emperors, the emperor, the Straw Hat Monkey D. Luffy, was beaten by the first emperor, and the King of Clowns was also dispensable. Therefore, as long as the red hair is defeated by the first emperor, then the One Piece, King of Pirates, is none other than the first emperor. Therefore, the meaning of this war is very different from the previous emperor wars. The most important thing is that this battle of emperors cannot be just a simple battle of emperors. On the sea level, Hazy, a giant-going ship, took the lead in revealing the whole picture, followed by a huge ship of the first emperor pirates also began to appear. Just looking at the number, it has reached more than 200 ships. At least there are hundreds of thousands of first emperor's troops. In terms of numbers, the first emperor pirates have steadily suppressed the red-haired side. The momentum is like a rainbow, and the whole sky is dark, as if it is about to collapse, and the depression is terrifying. The two sides held each other. Chinluo stood with his hands behind his back, standing on the bow of the Shihuang, looking at the island, the red hair who was ready. "Come down for a drink, Diaresis." On the coast, the red-haired man sat with drinks ready in front of him. He looked up at Chinluo on the first emperor, and raised the wine glass in his hand. With an indifferent face, Chinluo flew away from the first emperor and sat directly in front of the red hair. Not afraid of being poisoned, Chinluo directly raised the wine glass, touched the redhead, and then drank it in one gulp. If it weren't for the countless people on both sides of the strait, who would have guessed that this would be a war? However, even in this situation where ordinary people would be crushed to death by the atmosphere as soon as they stepped in, there were 2 people in the center, drinking indifferently. Even a vice admiral level person here would not be able to withstand this pressure, because under the watchful eyes of millions of people, being able to shiver without being frightened is already quite remarkable. And who can appear here? Which one is not the sword and the sea of fire? But now, the eyes of everyone on both sides are on the 2 men at the center, because those are the 2 emperors, the center of the world at this moment. Diaresis, does it have to be like this? Silently sipping the wine, the red-haired man looked at the man with complicated expressions. Hand over the guiding stones, give up everything, and swear never to show up. Otherwise, you must die. Putting down the glass, Chinluo looked at this man indifferently. To be honest, among the 5 emperors, whoever he admires most, except for Whitebeard, is this person. According to his character, this man must die. I, Zhao Chenjiao, are not interested in the position of One Piece, King of Pirates. If you want to guide the stone tablet, I can give it to you. As for the inheritance of the captain's will, it seems that it has changed, and I am not too concerned. Very indifferent. In fact, the red hair also thought a lot during this time, killing the man in front of him. No need for paper. The red hair's words did not make Chinluo's heart fluctuate. He still sipped his wine indifferently and quietly listened to the red hair's next words. But you shouldn't kill Ace, that's the captain's only bloodline. You know, you're really annoying. With a trace of murderous intent, the scene exploded in an instant. The red-haired Chiguo looked at Chinluo, clenching his fists, his face oozing. The appearance of this killing intent caused the subordinates of both sides to make preparations. For a time, the air froze to the extreme, and it was about to explode. Are you blaming me now? Or reasoning with me? Putting down the wine glass, Chinluo met his red-haired eyes expressionlessly, and a hint of disdain suddenly appeared at the corner of his mouth. Who do you think you are? Chapter 365 _ You. Roots of blue veins spread on the red-haired forehead. If there were any, the conqueror began to impact, forming a gust of wind, which swayed Qin Luo's long hair. In this world, there is no one who can reason with me, obviously there is no you. Qin Luo was still so indifferent to the red hair's anger, or he didn't pay attention to the red hair at all. The only thing that made Qin Luo care about the man in front of him seems to be worried about something. That's right, the red hair is scruples. This is not afraid of Qin Luo, but of another person. Do you believe that this world is not the only one? A thunderbolt came from the blue, and the red hair spoke amazingly. After speaking, Vivi leaned forward and looked at Qin Luo with extremely strange eyes. Qin Luo, who was about to drink, suddenly stopped. Your mood is a little restless. Isho himself, the redhead, retracted his leaning forward body with an indescribable sense of disobedience. The island of the end, I didn't go up, and I don't know what the captain saw there. The red-haired face recalled, and then his eyes were sharp, but he said that this world does not exist, only Chinese people can. It's real. Black hair, black eyes, first and last names, weird, miraculous, and without warning. When all these condense, it is the arrival of the transmigrators, named Washa people, the descendants of the dragon. You have black hair, black eyes, and the form of your name are all out of tune with this world. In you, I have seen weirdness and miracles, and I have investigated everything about you, and the result I got is no sign, as if it appeared out of thin air. You are completely different from the people of Sky Island. You know, what am I talking about? From the moment the red hair spoke, Qin Luo listened calmly, without any intention of interrupting. I don't know what the captain means, why this world doesn't exist, why is Washa people real? But Washa people, in this sea, there is no trace of existence, until you appeared, behind me, the people who have carefully arranged countless stepping stones for you to become stronger. Quote. Akainu, Bigmom, Kaido and, now, me. Do you have anything to tell me? After speaking, the redhead looked at Qin Luo emotionally, wanting to know the answer. After becoming the fifth emperor, the red hair thought about reaching Laugh Tale again, but was stopped, which made him a little unwilling, and there were countless suspicions in his heart until Qin Luo appeared. You think that I am from China and can give you the answers you want. For this reason, you have undue suspicion about the person behind you. At this moment, Qin Luo understood why the red hair was so abnormal and weird. Qin Luo said that he was not shocked by the shocking secrets behind the red hair. It was all fake, but this shock was far from the shock of what the red hair said next. It seems that Laugh Tale has to go there. Yes, only you can tell me the answer, so I betrayed him now. Since he wants me to be your stepping stone, then I will turn back and be your helper. The red hair gritted his teeth. Obviously this decision, he thought for a long time. Why do you think I will let you join the first Emperor Pirates? The development of things made Qin Luo somewhat unexpected. Because I'm a redhead, no one can decide my will. You need my help. Turning sideways, the red hair pointed to the crowd behind him. Haki said, although you have a flawed personality, you are not stupid, and you should have noticed something. Otherwise, you would not waste your time talking nonsense with me here, but would have long ago. Get started. I can tell you clearly, I will not surrender to you, just as a partner. After the matter is over, I will take my partner and withdraw from this sea. These years of adventures are enough, the rest, I just want to live a normal life, if the most ideal place is your first Emperor Pirates. Quote. The red hair didn't hide anything, and directly said what was in his heart. But no one knew whether it was true or not. Maybe in the end, you and I will both die, or you can rule the world, although your character is hopeless, but I don't admire you. The first Emperor Pirates are really an ideal homeland. If the whole world everyone has this opportunity to enjoy peace, so what's wrong with my red hair becoming your Qin Luo's subject? Haki was awe-inspiring, and the red hair looked at Qin Luo, not joking at all, on the contrary, very serious and serious. Since you know me so well, you should know that no one can negotiate terms with me, including your red hair. Qin Luo's sarcasm did not arouse the anger of the red hair. On the contrary, the red hair quickly calmed down and even showed a smile. The current you is not the previous you. You already have concerns and goals. You will promise me. With a gloomy expression on his face, Qin Luo's eyes flashed a trace of killing intent, but then it disappeared. Why choose me, not the Revolutionary Army? Taking a deep breath, Qin Luo asked a question. Because the Revolutionary Army is only his tool. Qin Luo grabbed the wine glass's hand. Vivi moved, frowning slightly. The person behind you is really terrifying. His heart sank. Qin Luo recalled everything in the past, whether it was Akainu or Kaido, as if everything was brought up by himself. Qin Luo felt a sense of control. It turned out that he had always been developing in the direction the other party wanted, which made him very unhappy, and more of it was a horror. Aside from the messy thoughts, Qin Luo quietly looked at the red hair for 3 minutes, and the red hair also looked at Qin Luo calmly. You should understand that joining the First Emperor Pirates means that you have to make a decision with all the emotional entanglements in the past. In the end, Qin Luo was the first to bear it. I know what I want. The redhead hesitated for a while, then his eyes sharpened. You are welcome to join us. Standing up, Qin Luo stretched out his hand, because the red hair was right, the current Qin Luo is not the Qin Luo of the past. Crack. The red hair didn't hesitate, just reached out and held Qin Luo. Pleasant to work with. Released their hands, the two sat down again, and after touching a cup, Qin Luo solemnly asked, Now, you can tell me who he is. I don't know. When he appeared, I couldn't see his face, even if it was close at hand. It's very serious, and now the redhead feels palpitations when he thinks about it. Frowning, Qin Luo couldn't believe that the red hair would lie to him, because it was totally unnecessary. You should be the Chinese, the captain said. After Qin Luo finished asking, he asked with red hair. Yes, Qin Luo didn't hide anything, and simply admitted it. Looks like the final island, we all need to go up and see. After pondering for a moment, the redhead set his sights on Laughtail. Beckman, Lackey. Looking at each other, the red-haired stood up and waved at all his partners. For a time, the main members of the Red Hair Pirates came up with serious expressions, stood behind the red hair, and silently looked at Qin Luo. And Qin Luo also waved to Nami and others. Afterwards, the numbers of the two sides stood together. Except for the red-haired pirates who seemed to know the situation, only a few people from Qin Luo's side, Nami, understood the general meaning. Chapter 366 Serve the wine. Beckman gritted his teeth, respecting the redhead's decision, and immediately someone replaced several wine bowls and filled them with spirits. If you have any ideas, you can leave now, and my red hair will never pursue it. Turning around, the red hair looked at the companions beside him, and finally asked. Hey, Captain, haven't we discussed it? What's more, the First Emperor Pirates are really good. The Fishman Street there is very exciting. There are pirates, pursed their lips. Going City is also good. Quote. Better Bath Center. Quote. We have no opinion. One person, one word, Lackey and others, there is no tilde any resistance. If that's the case, then our Red Hair Pirates will join the First Emperor Pirates in the future. Seeing that his partners did not object, the redhead was relieved. No one knew how long it would take him to think and struggle to make this decision. On the contrary, the calm on the red-haired side, the beige people on Qin Luo's side opened their mouths wide and looked confused. Isn't there a war between the two sides? What happened earlier? Shouldn't the direction of things be life and death for you? What's the situation now? Of course, maybe only Nami and a few others understand what happened. In the future, the Red Hair Pirates will be the pirates of the First Emperor Pirates. After the red hair was published, it was Qin Luo's turn. At this moment, Qin Luo stood up, picked up the wine bowl, and looked at Nami and the others. With Qin Luo's actions, Nami and others took the lead, and Beige and the others, even though they were confused, also picked up their wine bowls. Both sides looked at each other, then raised their wine bowls, gestured, and poured the spirits into their stomachs. Pat pat pat. The sound of the wine bowl shattering, the two sides agree, and they will be a powerful person in the future. Beckman, bring the guiding stone, let's go to the first Emperor Pirates. Silently, Beckman left the team directly, obviously to inform, and also to bring the guiding stone. In the future, there will be a slight difference in their identities. The change of things happened too fast. Chin Luo's side was full of fantasy. Although he had just drank the wine, he was still in a state of confusion. Brother Monkey, do you know what happened? Leaning closer, Bej smugly touched Sun Wukong. Nonsense, I can't understand this, are you stupid? Squinting, Sun Wukong looked at Bej with contempt. With that look, the victory was in his hands, like a prophet, unfathomable. Understand what? Tessero and the others also pricked up their ears. Obviously, okay, these people are going to join the first Emperor Pirates, and they will be their own in the future. There seems to be something wrong. Hearing Sun Wukong's answer, Bej scratched his head, always feeling that something was wrong. The answer is the answer, but what is this sense of disobedience? Don't understand yet. Sun Wukong glared at Bej and the others in disgust. Their heads one after another, Bej, Tessero and the others were still stunned. Then don't think about it, your IQ is too low to do anything. Giving him a sideways, Sun Wukong snorted coldly. This kind of crushing on IQ is really comfortable, even though he didn't understand it. Outside the number, outside the number. The world's big news, don't miss it when you pass by, be shocked. One day ago, the first emperor of the 5 emperors shot the red-haired Shanks. Things are developing strangely, the 5 emperors with red hair joined the first Emperor Pirates. Now only the king of the 5 kings and clowns is left to support. In the new world, no one can resist the first emperor. The 5 emperors closest to the throne of One Piece, king of pirates, the emperor of the first Emperor Pirates. Countless news birds, all kinds of newspapers in the world, all kinds of news, one news that shocked the world and all kinds of conjectures, spread all over the world. The news of the red hair joining the first Emperor Pirates was like a meteorite falling on the sea, causing a shock like the sky collapsed, causing the entire sea to riot like never before. The incident has already happened to the point where it is uncontrollable. All kinds of forces and powerhouses are all solemn, and some cannot accept this fact. With the addition of the 5 emperors' red hair, the power of the first Emperor Pirates was so powerful that no one dared to compete. Night, the halo of stars, a galaxy, runs through the universe. The Great Root, an unknown desert island, at the top of the mountain, under the light of Gecko, a somewhat blurred back, overlooking the entire sea of stars. It's very interesting, I didn't expect you to betray me. The blurry back gave people an ethereal feeling. I saw a male voice sounding, and a wanted notice appeared in this man's hand. On it, it was the smiling face of the 5 emperors with red hair. Forget it, the key has grown and you don't need to exist anymore. With 5 fingers clenched, the entire wanted order, silently, turned into shreds, and disappeared into the air along with the strong wind. I am, 900 plus years, get ready to enjoy my gift to you. I can't kill you, he certainly can. Turned around, revealing a profile face, vaguely familiar, looking in the direction of Mariajoy. The next second, the hurricane on the top of the mountain roared, and there was no one there. At the same time, Mariajoy, in the deepest part, under a huge tree that reached the sky, with a back, looked at the lake in front of him, and was a little ecstatic. Meet Lord I Am. And just at this time of disobedience, all 5 figures lowered their heads, from far to near, knelt directly in front of the man whose face could not be seen clearly, and bowed. What's the matter? The man who was called Lord Yimu turned his head and looked indifferently at the 5 old men kneeling on the ground. The 5 emperors have red hair and joined the first Emperor Pirates. It's the same thing that Lord Yimu thought. Next, they may go back to the final island. Do we want to stop it? 0. Gorosei, 5 elders lay on the ground, afraid to look up. The first emperor. There was no immediate answer, but the strange thing was that I am, whose face could not be seen clearly, seemed to be missing something, and there was such a special emotion in his voice. It should be staring at him. What's the action of the Revolutionary Army? Sir Yimu, the Revolutionary Army has nothing to do at the moment. Did they need to be cleaned up? Gorosei, 5 elders, an old man, has started to sweat on his forehead. For 900 years, you haven't found his hiding place. I'm puzzled. Head, even though he couldn't see the face clearly, the Gorosei, 5 elders shivered and their hearts throbbed cautiously, because they knew that Lord I Am was dissatisfied with them. Since D has set his sights on the first emperor, then use the Revolutionary Army to force him out. Remember, the first emperor is still useful to me. Don't take action against the first emperor pirates for the time being, and the world government should move. Very casually, I Am didn't seem to take the Revolutionary Army and the world government in his eyes, and the words mentioned were only 1D and the first emperor from beginning to end. You can go. This time, let Marine be fully dispatched, and by the way, we will clean up the so-called undercover agents, and let Afigolo Phantom 5 families, and also dispatch a few CPOs. With a wave of his hand, like chasing flies, I Am indifferently looked at the Gorosei, 5 elders kneeling on the ground. Yes. Standing up, Gorosei, 5 elders bowed and slowly stepped back. By the way, that guy D may show up and bring the king with him. In a flash, I Am sneered. 2. Chapter 367 Yes. Lord Yimu, using the King of Heaven requires blood sacrifice. Somewhat apprehensive, the Gorosei, 5 elders suddenly remembered the limitations of the Heavenly King, requiring Tenryubido's life, otherwise, it would not be activated at all. The blood sacrifice does not exist, it is only used to clean up the disobedient and restless people. This time, I need 10 of your families, 2 direct descendants of each family. This is just a warning. Sir I Am, spare your life. Terrified, Gorosei, 5 elders hurriedly knelt on the ground, pleading. I don't care what you guys do, I just want 20 Tenryubido's lives. You guys have been a little crazy lately. Extremely cruel. With a cold snort, a huge pressure directly pressed Gorosei, 5 elders to the ground, unable to move. You can give me Yang and Yin, and the consequences are just like the other Tenryubido families that have disappeared. The 5 of you should know why there are only 10 of you out of 20 kings. I don't want to say more. Get out. The corners of the mouth, Gorosei, 5 elders, pale, the eyes are full of pain. Yes. Although he was unwilling, the Gorosei, 5 elders' faces were always respectful, because the man in front of them had given them eternal life, and resistance was simply a dead end. Slightly embarrassed, the Gorosei, 5 elders took the Heavenly King and left. Watching the departure of the Gorosei, 5 elders, the mist that had enveloped Im's face suddenly disappeared, revealing an unusually familiar, handsome, and stern face. The first Emperor Pirates, the City of the Sky, the dusk is approaching, in the back garden, an unprecedented banquet, all kinds of delicious food, are all brought up. Cheers. It was deafening. At this moment, no matter who it was or any mood, could not resist the atmosphere at this time. This was the first banquet since the Red Hair Pirates joined the first Emperor Pirates. Although the two sides are not very familiar with each other, this is just the beginning. I believe that in the face of time, everything will be run in. The main seat of the banquet is still Chinluo, and the other positions are not very particular, they are all seated at will. Cough, cough. During the banquet, the red-haired stood up from the chair, held the wine glass with a serious expression, and said to the crowd, no matter what kind of grievances we had in the past, after this glass of wine, even if we have given up our previous suspicions, in the future, we red-haired pirates. The regiment, I will settle down in the first Emperor Pirates, it is a golden basin to wash my hands, here, I have a red-haired toast to you. Ha ha, you have a red-hair toast, why not accept it, do it? Nami and the others looked at the red-haired hotly, thinking about when to fight. As for the issue of the red-haired pirates joining the first Emperor pirates, Nami and the others were not worried at all. No matter what the other party had in mind, they were confident to solve it. This was their arrogance. Moreover, looking at the red hair like this, it seems that he is about to retire. Obviously, the life range of the first Emperor pirates is one of the best in the world, which is fascinating. That's it. Everyone raised their glasses, gestured, and drank them in one gulp. Come, eat, eat. Undoubtedly, the addition of the red-haired pirates, no matter if there is a conspiracy or something, at least on the surface, the first Emperor pirates have completely expanded to the point where they cannot be added. In this world, it can be said that only the world government and the Revolutionary Army will be the opponents of the first Emperor pirates. As for the individual 5 emperors, they have withdrawn from the stage of history. The current era is an era of three-legged confrontation. The first Emperor pirates, the world government, and the Revolutionary Army can also say that in front of these three supreme forces, there is no force that can resist. It started slowly, and as the banquet progressed, some people began to get drunk and hazy. What was too much was that Tessero actually took out the dice. After that, several people from both sides gathered around and gambled with spirits. Wine is the best way to communicate. One by one, they got drunk and hooked up with each other, and it didn't take long for them to become acquainted. When you were a few years old, you peeked at the bath next door, robbed children, bullied the weak, and all kinds of experiences began to spread in the banquet indiscriminately. This time, with the addition of the red hair, Chinluo did not deprive the red hair of any rights, but just established a new organization. On the surface, the red hair joined the first Emperor pirates. In fact, the two parties are in a cooperative relationship. After the incident, the red hair pirates will live in seclusion in the first Emperor pirates and will no longer care about other things. The most important thing is that the red hair is still a little selfish, because he betrayed that person, and he can't defeat him by himself. Only with the addition of the first Emperor pirates, there may be hope. In addition to various factors, one of the biggest reasons for the redhead to make this decision is the partners of Beckman. At least, the redhead knows what he is doing and what he needs, plus all kinds of ties. Let the redhead make the best decision at the moment, even if it needs to abandon something. To put it bluntly, redheads are also human beings, and they also have emotions and desires. No one is born to like to be someone else's slave, not to mention, the red-haired conqueror is still one of the best. The most important thing is that his identity does not allow him to do so. He needs to get out of control, he needs to know what he wants to hear, and he needs to think about his partners who share the joys and sorrows. Obviously, the reason why the red-haired conqueror is so strong is because of tolerance, cherishing, and righteousness, and Whitebeard is almost the same. As for Kaido and Bigmom, it is entirely by their own selfishness. Compared with the distinctive conqueror of the above people, Chinluo's conqueror is a little more complicated and diverse. The banquet was very noisy. Chinluo was alone with the wine and appeared to the side, looking down at the fascination. The endless lights were dimmed. It didn't take long for the red hair to come over, without saying a word, and also looked at the endless lights in the sea of clouds below. This country is beautiful. After pondering for a moment, the redhead took a sip of his wine and sighed. Although the man beside him killed innocent people indiscriminately and lost his conscience, he was once unacceptable, but now he calms down and looks at the first Emperor pirates, but it is inexplicable. Understood. It's beautiful, because the materials are all poured out with countless corpses and blood. Only after experiencing war can people cherish peace. This kind of history, in every world, is a philosophy. Indifferently, Chinluo snorted softly. I heard that Spring Island is the most beautiful. When I retire, I must build a wooden house there. It needs 3 floors, preferably by the sea. The red hair looked at the direction of Spring Island on Chiwangdao, where, for many years, the scenery was full of vitality, which made the red hair very fond of it. Is this your dream? Qin Luo said casually. Of course, do you think my dream is very ordinary? The redhead shrugged. This is the first time he has revealed his dream in front of people. That's right, the redhead's dream is not to inherit Roger's will, nor to become One Piece King of Pirates, but to have a home, to be able to rely on the sea, to chat with relatives and friends, and to talk about the ordinary and ordinary life every day, right? What is your dream? The redhead was a little curious and looked sideways at the contradictory man. My dream is also very simple. Let the people I care about live happily in this world, but this world is too dangerous, too corrupt, and too wrong. Somewhat in a trance, Qin Luo took a sip of wine. So, this sick world is not what you think need. Since the world doesn't make the people I care about feel safe, I'll transform it until it's suitable for the people I care about. Your dream is very ordinary, but it is very difficult. In your eyes, even the world is not as important as what you care about. Although it is a bit extreme, it fits your character very well. Of course, I never hide my emotions. Turning his head, Qin Luo looked at the red hair and had a cup with him. And the red hair, as if knowing Qin Luo for the first time, because Qin Luo at the moment is different from any previous period, he seems very quiet and peaceful. To be honest, I really hate you, but now, abandoning all kinds of grievances, I admire you a little bit. The red-haired eyes were complicated, looking at the man in front of him, it was really indescribable. After all, it's people of different camps. A stern flashed in his eyes, the red hair turned his head to hide it well, and Qin Luo, looking at the dim lights under the night sky, didn't know what he was thinking. Chapter 368 The next day, Liu Gaozan, compared to the harmonious and peaceful day of the first Emperor Pirates, the atmosphere in the Imperial City Hall in the central city seemed a little depressing. Sitting on the throne, there is a ladder below, Nami and Main, and then down, it is Nami and others, but now, a lot of chairs have been added, but at this moment, no one pays attention to these, because everyone, all looked at the information in their hands. It can be seen that everyone's expressions are very serious, including the red-haired group who participated in the meeting. It happened a little bit suddenly. Looking at the information in his hand, Qin Luo's brows were tight. Even after reading it, he felt that this incident came without warning and had no hunch. Miss Nami, are you sure it's true? Down, the red hair rubbed his forehead, and his expression seemed a little hesitant. Mr. Redhead, please don't doubt the information of our first Emperor Pirates. This is indeed true, and Marine has already set off, and the army of the world government has also launched a big attack on the Revolutionary Army. Isho tactfully, Nami was sure. No warning at all. Everyone was pondering, and it was difficult to understand, because the world government suddenly attacked the Revolutionary Army in the past 26 days. Whether it is the army, the marine, or other institutions, they have already launched an all-out attack. For a time, the Great Root, the Four Seas and other countless kingdoms, all fell into the flames of war. Putting down the information in his hand, Qin Luo closed his eyes and knocked on the throne with one hand, obviously thinking. This matter is too strange. Although it seems to have nothing to do with our first Emperor Pirates, I always feel that there is some connection. Main looked at the information back and forth, her voice very cold. Ms. Main is right. In terms of power in the ocean now, there are only the world government, the Revolutionary Army and the first Emperor Pirates, which can be said to be three pillars. But now, the world government is ignoring the first Emperor Pirates and blatantly. If we attack the Revolutionary Army, and it looks like this, it is still an all-out attack, so aren't we afraid that the first Emperor Pirates will take advantage of the fishermen? As the think tank of the red-haired pirates, Beckman smoked and spoke. Of course not, if I'm not mistaken, it's also about you. The long legs wrapped in black silk crossed back and forth, making people unable to bear a glimpse, and then Nami said, the information here shows that after you joined the first Emperor Pirates, Gorosei, 5 elders suddenly ordered an all-out attack on the Revolutionary Army, although there is no connection between them, but as long as you think about the actions of our first Emperor Pirates and the world government, it is easy to understand. Quote, Nami, why can't I understand? What does this have to do with our first Emperor pirates? Several confused faces were filled with bewildered expressions. It seems that the world government is far more powerful than we believe. Beckman was smoking a cigarette, looking a little serious, obviously thinking of something. Perhaps, the world government is warning us of the first Emperor pirates, or in other words, it is under the pretense of giving us the first Emperor pirates. Maine explained. The world government dares to ignore our first Emperor pirates so much. There are only two possibilities, either the victory is in hand, and we are not afraid of our first Emperor pirates intervening, or it is bluffing, but the world government has existed for 800 years, I don't think they are bluffing. The world government is far more terrifying than you think. Red issued information and interjected, as if recalling something. Until now, he didn't understand what the captain said to him decades ago. Obviously, the world government can no longer tolerate the existence of the Revolutionary Army and the first Emperor pirates. In the past, the situation on the sea was too scattered. Shichibukai, the 5 emperors, the Revolutionary Army, the underground world, scattered large forces, etc., maintained in a balance. It is only good for world government to rule, but for now. His face was a little ugly. Maine combined the information about the world government over the years. It is not difficult to find that the world government is not weak. On the contrary, it is very terrifying. Ms. Maine is right, now the sea can no longer maintain its balance. The Revolutionary Army and the first Emperor pirates have threatened the world government. As for why the world government will attack the Revolutionary Army first, I have some thoughts about this. I don't understand. After thinking about it, Beckman felt that the first Emperor pirates were far more harmful than the Revolutionary Army, but why did the world government choose to attack the Revolutionary Army in the first place? It's better to go back to sleep instead of worrying about it here, and call me when you want to fight. Yawning, Kuzan couldn't hold on any longer, and wanted to go back to his bed and sleep. Time, back 2 days ago, Marine Headquarters Marineford. The Great Meeting. On this day, all Marines above Rear Admiral were called together for an order from Mariajoy. Sir Gorosei, 5 elders sent an order, ordering our Marine to launch an all-out attack on the Shemale Kingdom, the current headquarters of the Revolutionary Army, and several departments of the Army and CP-1 also began to encircle and suppress other bases of the Revolutionary Army. Sengoku, with all white hair, looked at the order with the seal of Gorosei, 5 elders and Marshal Kong in his hand, and couldn't help but be puzzled, because this time the order was mandatory. How could the Revolutionary Army suddenly be wiped out with great fanfare? With a solemn expression, Crane's wrinkled face showed a heavy look. I don't know, the order this time is very firm, not only the Army, but also several departments such as CP0, and our Marine. Sengoku shook his head, somewhat confused, because Sora didn't give him any hints. Not only Sengoku didn't know about this, even Sora was confused. Because of Aime's existence, only Tenryubito and Gorosei, 5 elders, CPO knew, maybe Sora knew now, but Sengoku and others were not qualified. Marine, who was finally recuperating, this time, it's going to be a huge loss again. Sengoku sighed, looking at the current Marine, with a bit of heartache, because even the most basic admiral has not been collected. Admiral, except Kizaru, Ryokugyu, and the exceptionally promoted Onagumo, Quasi-Admiral Smoker, Kobe, Helmeppo. Now compared to before, Marine's high-end combat power has dropped by several levels, because many people are already old. Although the whole world has recruited soldiers once, the result has made Sengoku somewhat unsatisfactory. If the original Marine had not grown up, it is estimated that the current Marine and the middle-level power have already appeared faults. The current Marine, it can be said, has already sunset. But even so, this time Marine had to fight. For this reason, after a few hours of negotiation, Marine packed up and set off on the same day, and went to the Shemale Kingdom early in the morning. Since the Gorosei, 5 elders gave orders to Sengoku. This time, the Revolutionary Army could be said to be very dangerous, which gave Long a headache. The army and CP agencies were almost all dispatched by the world government to assassinate, attack, and deal with the middle-level and high-level officials of the Revolutionary Army. In just one day, many low-level and middle-level officials of the Revolutionary Army lost countless. To this end, Long also made no reservations, and began to convene revolutionary armies from all over the world, including some hidden powerhouses, to fight openly and secretly, and began to compete with the world government. However, this time the world government is obviously serious, so the situation of the Revolutionary Army is not very good. And with the exchange of fire between the Revolutionary Army and the world government, all the kingdoms in the world were filled with smoke and flames, and there were countless casualties. As a result, the whole world is in chaos. Chapter 369 Pirates, kingdoms, underground worlds, and countless races have all been affected. Even the first Emperor pirates have been affected, but this kind of impact is minimal. Killing, looting, and wanton deeds are simply horrific. The original order has completely collapsed. Every day, tens of millions of lives are lost in the four seas, the Great Root, and the New World. For this reason, there were more slaves, more pirates, and more tragedies, and the hell on earth appeared. Balance, order, morality, all turned into nothingness. Human life was like grass, and tragedy was staged. If there is no safe place in the world, then the first Emperor Pirates is one of them. For this reason, when the war started, countless people of various identities began to pour into the first Emperor Pirates, hoping to get help. Although the situation of the Revolutionary Army is very bad, the situation of the world government is not as stable as imagined, because many of the alliance countries have openly rebelled and established themselves as kings. It can be found that the Four Seas and the Great Root, originally some countries that joined the world, blatantly killed marine and the world government personnel, setting off a trend of self-reliance. In this regard, the sea has entered an unprecedented war, and many careerists who are unhappy with the world government have also begun to show their minions and began to intervene in the war, wanting to take a piece of the pie and become the top overlord in the sea. The fire of war has created a tragedy, and it has also created a rise. For example, in the underground world, many small forces have become giants based on arms alone. There are also some slave-hunting groups, which specialize in capturing some strong humans, and assassination forces, which specialize in assassinating officials of the Revolutionary Army and the world government. These forces, all of which are money like flowing water, have entered their pockets in large quantities. It can be said that pirates no longer belong to the mainstream, because many various forces, like bamboo shoots, continue to thrive. Maybe today you heard a news, what kingdom destroyed another kingdom, what pirate group robbed merchant ships, and some people rose strongly. In short, the world completely lost its balance and completely collapsed. The current world is the real law of the weak, and everything depends on strength. An unprecedented storm swept the entire sea, and the era when pirates became the mainstream has also declined. The current era is the most chaotic era. The world is full of war and gunpowder. Since the world government started to attack the Revolutionary Army, the large and small forces here began to be impacted, so that many hidden careerists began to show their minions and set off a battle of counter-forces. It is reported that we were attacked by the Vinsmoke family in the realm of North Blue. Now North Blue has more than half of the territory and is out of our control, diaresis. Report, the West Blue Mafia joined forces to drive all the forces of our army out of the Kingdom of Sternand, and we gradually lost control of West Blue. Report, East Blue's hidden Revolutionary Army forces have begun to break through our defenses. South Blue, with the intervention of the underground world, pirates, and businessmen, our forces are now unable to move an inch. One after another report, through the phone bug, spread to the entire Zongshu, and the Four Seas, which were previously in the hands of the world government, also began to be restless and fell into an inexhaustible war. The Four Seas, the crossed place, next to the Red Soil continent, there is an island, here is one of the army bases. Send out various departments of CP1 and CP3, fully grasp the leaders of these resistance forces, dispatch troops, and conduct a comprehensive cleaning. There is the Army Vice Admiral, who exudes a powerful breath all over his body, snorts coldly, and his eyes are cold. Compared with the resistance of the four seas, the Great Root is the most important. For this reason, the Air Marshal controlled the center and dispatched 4 admirals of the army to deal with the backbone of the Revolutionary Army, the chief of the 4 military districts. Sea, with their Army Vice Admiral, will be fine. Cooperating with other government departments, they are fully capable of solving these marine garbage. At that time, Sea will still be under control. This time, the war that has spread all over the world has not affected the world government in the slightest. No matter which institution it is, it has the confidence to suppress these thugs. Therefore, although the war in the four seas is fierce, it is still within the controllable range, but the Great Root, the world government, is a little difficult. Not only have many allied countries separated from the world government, but secretly, there are many other forces fishing in troubled waters, causing the forces of the world government to be scattered. Among them, the 4 battlefields are the largest, because these 4 battlefields are all wars between the 4 major military district chiefs of the Revolutionary Army against the Army Admiral, and in these wars, many amazing things have emerged. Boom, boom. In an unknown kingdom, the artillery fire is raging into the sky at this moment, and countless civilians are fleeing. I don't know how much they have been affected. That's the pacifist of the world government. Why the Revolutionary Army also has pacifists. Some residents looked in horror at the tall figures who were exactly the same on both sides, but in different clothes, screaming. The laser beams, like the scythe of the god of death, exploited everything unscrupulously. The explosions continued, and the fire was billowing into the sky. The eyes were full of mourning, blood, and corpses. Terrible, like hell on earth. And all of this, not just this one kingdom, but the entire four seas and the Great Root. The world has lost its original calm, and now, everything speaks with strength, and all morals and 3 views have been ruthlessly torn apart. All races tore off the so-called the skies, laughing wildly, killing innocent people indiscriminately. The start of a full-scale war is only a corner of iceberg, and the biggest war now is still the Revolutionary Army and the world government. The Shemale Kingdom has now become the base camp of the Revolutionary Army, and orders are issued one after another from here. I don't know how many people have been swept away, and how many people have lost their homes and lives. Diaresis Dragon, it has been confirmed that Marine is fully dispatched. Marine Marshal Sengoku will lead the team. In an hour, they will reach the Shemale Kingdom. With a serious expression, Terry, the intelligence control officer, reported. How are they now, Bello? The huge map was hanging. Long looked at the stacks of documents in his hands, and asked without raising his head, Zhao Nuos. The chief of the 4 military districts of Bello has already started a full-scale war with the 4 admirals of the army, but the situation is not very good. Let Bello and the others hold on, and when first solve Marine, I'll go to support. Looking back from the data, the dragon's eyes were sharp, and his body exuded the breath of a king. Send a letter to those monsters without donkeys. They're coming. If that's the case, then get ready. Right here, and the world government will have a showdown. With a big wave of his hand, Long's face was cold, and he planned to wait here for Marine's arrival. As long as Marine was completely wiped out here, the situation of the Revolutionary Army would be greatly improved. At that time, it will be time for their Revolutionary Army to counterattack the world government. And as the dragon's words fell, all over the world, some strong hermits began to run towards the kingdom of the Shemale. Chapter 370 The waves were undulating, and the dazzling rays of light poured out. On the sea, hundreds of huge warships, with the marine flag hanging high, rushed towards the Shemale kingdom like a broken bamboo. This time, Marine went out in full force, Marineford, leaving the crane alone to guard. It can be said that the battle is very big. At the forefront, on the deck of a warship, Marine executives such as Sengoku, Garp, Kizaru, etc. are all standing here, as if welcoming someone. Everyone's face is very serious, as if the person who is about to come is an amazing guy. Space ripples, and in the blink of an eye, 3 figures appeared in front of everyone. Meeting Lord Gorosei, 5 elders. Headed by Sengoku, all Vivi bowed down. Yes, in this war, Sengoku led the team on the bright side, but the real situation was this Gorosei, 5 elders with a fluffy beard, who was killed by Chinluo last time. Gorosei, 5 elders with an extremely bizarre speed with a badly wounded foot. And beside this Gorosei, 5 elders, there are still 2 figures standing. One is a man in black clothes. Looking closely, it is actually a robot without emotion, and the other is a slightly tall masked man. This robot is the King of Heaven, and this masked man is not much CPO anymore. But now, the eyes of Garp and the others are fixed on the robot. Sengoku, how long does it take to reach the Shimale Kingdom? Full of energy, the Gorosei, 5 elders looked at Sengoku blankly. There's still half an hour to go. Sengoku looked away from the robot, ripples in his heart, and hurriedly returned answered. Not only Sengoku, but other people frowned, thinking deeply about the identity of this robot. As for the masked man, it is easy to recognize. Just looking at the dress, you know that it is a CPO, but this robot flashed in his eyes. Kizaru didn't look at all, still so lazy. Garp, I want you to take your stand. Suddenly, the Gorosei, 5 elders set their sights on Garp, clearly a warning. And Garp, silent, just nodded. This war, Garp was brought in because the Gorosei, 5 elders wanted to test Garp, and if Garp had a different mind, they would clean it up. Beside him, Sengoku glanced at Garp, a little heavy. After all, the culprit to deal with this time was his son. For a time, the atmosphere was a little depressing, and everyone didn't know what they were thinking. Gorosei, 5 elders warned Garp. They turned around and stood on the bow, looking at the endless horizon. This time, Lord Ain's order was to destroy the revolutionary army, leading to D. With the King of Heaven by his side, he believed that the revolutionary army was an ant that could be easily destroyed. The world government would continue to last, and he was still more than one person under 10,000 people. The first Emperor pirates, because of the war all over the world, there are also wars around the world, and every day, the number of human beings pouring into the first Emperor pirates is unknown. Fishman Island, which was sheltered by the first Emperor pirates, was also greatly impacted. For this reason, Neptune sent a letter asking for help. On the same day, Nami dispatched the minister of the first Emperor pirates and one of the red-haired men. Cadres, and many troops went to guard. It can be said that during this period of time, Nami and Main were very busy. The first Emperor pirates' billions of territories depended on the two of them to make decisions. For this reason, the usually lazy Kuzan, as the chief leader of the escort team, also actively maintained the turmoil of the first Emperor pirates. But fortunately, the first Emperor pirates are famous, at most only because of a large number of outsiders, causing some confusion. The most important thing is that Nami and Main are unwilling to be ordinary, and they have begun to attack the New World in all aspects. It can be found that the troops of the first Emperor pirates have begun to sail from all directions, with the help of the world government and the revolutionary army. Stalemate, intending to control the whole New World. But most of these armies, except for a few, are the forces of the Red Hair Pirates, which means that the original army of the first Emperor Pirates, Nami and Main, did not send out much. It can be said that Nami and Main have great appetites, and the New World, which was originally peaceful, has also begun to create an unprecedented wave like the Four Seas and the Great Shipping Route. However, the decisions of Nami and Main really played a big role, because the rule of the first Emperor Pirates began to expand again. A few minutes ago, Chinluo and others had left the first Emperor Pirates, but the people who went out this time were a little different. Chinluo only brought Sun Wukong and Nami. Because of the red hair for some unknown reason, he also took Beckman and other people from the main ship. Before Chinluo, they left the first Emperor Pirates. For the red hair's departure, Chinluo just frowned, because he had never really let down his guard against the red hair. Therefore, Chinluo didn't really care whether the red hair really joined the first Emperor pirates. Chinluo doesn't care, it doesn't mean that Nami and Main don't care. For this reason, they sent the forces of the original red hair pirates to subdue other forces in the New World. Hull, on the side, belongs to the usual office of Nami and Main. CGAC, now, only Main is left, working hard. Various things are signed in her hands, and then communicated, running the entire First Emperor pirates. With the addition of the giant elephant, the country of Zhou on its back has continued to expand. In addition to the fur tribe, there are many other races living on it. In addition to the current world wars and various things, Main hurts brain. It is difficult to solve or do not want to solve, there is only one word, kill. This was Chinluo's original words to Main before he left. It was a very simple way to deal with it. After all, Chinluo took Nami and Wukong, the first Emperor pirates and Perona, Fujitora, Kuzan and others, enough to suppress any rebellion. Miss Main head. Far away, before entering the door, a slightly anxious voice came into the side hall. Beige, what's the matter? Main raised her head and frowned at the panting Beige. Big sister, I need to go to West Blue. My family sent me a distress letter. Touching the cold sweat on his head, Beige poured a sip of cold water directly from the table next to him. Mafia. After thinking about Main Vivi, she knew exactly what Beige was doing. There is a lot of war in the Four Seas now, and it's a good opportunity. Ma Yin let out a sigh of relief and interjected. Beige, you lead the army of 100,000 First Emperor, as well as Supernova Kid, Hawkins, etc., go to West Blue to bring the other three seas into the territory of the First Emperor pirates. Ah. Beige was stunned for a while, he just planned to go to West Blue to rescue his mafia family, but looking at the appearance of Sister Main now, he wanted to swallow the world under the eyes of the Revolutionary Army and the world government. What? Is there a problem? Main raised her eyebrows. No, 100,000 First Emperor's army is enough. Beige's eyes lit up when he came back to his senses. You must know that this is the First Emperor's army of 100,000. The Mafia, the Vinsmoke family, are all scum. What's more, there are a few supernovas in Kid. If that's the case, then you go. With a wave of her hand, Main drove Beige away directly. Got it. With a face full of joy, Beige couldn't wait to run out of the side hall. This time, he went back with the army of 100,000 First Emperor. That was very proud. He wanted to let his family and the other three seas spread in the under his own power. Leading the army of 100,000 First Emperor, quietly, rushing towards the Four Seas. Over the years, the existence of Beige is optional. After all, in terms of combat power, some people in the First Emperor pirates are stronger than him. For this reason, when developing the Castle Devil Fruit, Beige all expanded in this direction. So now Beige's body, like an imperial city, can easily hold tens of thousands of people, and it just so happens that the number of 100,000 is still within Beige's tolerance range. Without hesitation, Beige is now a moving fortress. One person is like a war machine, and can easily destroy a large kingdom. Think about it, in a one-on-one situation, Beige suddenly released 100,000 First Emperor's army, that kind of situation can scare people to death. And Beige's fighting style is two words, besieging. Since the individual soldier's ability is weak, then the number should be used to accumulate. As the saying goes, the ants will kill the elephant, and in the battle with Beige, either others will single out a group of him, or he will beat others. Fortunately, Nami didn't take Zeus away this time. For this reason, Beige directly grabbed Zeus as a leg strength. After all, the new world is still far away from the world, and the fastest speed is of course flying. Chapter 371 The Shemale Kingdom, near the sea, is densely packed, and as far as the eye can see, countless marine warships, all artillery fire, are aimed at the Shemale Island. At the same time, spreading from the island in all directions, the Revolutionary Army has already made preparations, and military fortresses have been raised, and the arms traded with the first Emperor pirates over the years has been thoroughly displayed. It suppressed Marine's arrogance. The sound of heavy footsteps came, led by Long, followed by Shang, Ivankov, Amazuna and other senior leaders of the Revolutionary Army, and walked to the front. The battle circle this time is really too big, almost covering the 4 seas and the great shipping routes. For this reason, many hidden high-level leaders of the Revolutionary Army have been scattered to important places. You must know that the place of war is not only the Shimail Kingdom, but also other important bases of the Revolutionary Army, and the enemy is the world government, the army, CP and other departments. So now in the Shimail Kingdom, the power of the Revolutionary Army seems to be a little depressed, but there are dragons guarding it, and Marine is far from having the strength it used to be. For this reason, the outcome is unpredictable. Monkey D. Dragon. Standing on the headed warship, the Gorosei 5 elders stood with their hands behind their backs, with murderous intent in their eyes. If the Gorosei 5 elders wanted to destroy the most in the ocean, then the non-revolutionary army was none other than the current First Emperor pirates. The group can't compare. Because the starting point of the revolutionary army is to overthrow their rule, it is intolerable to change to anyone in power. I didn't expect that even you appeared in person. It seems that the world government is really running out of fuel. Ling Ran's haki suppressed the surrounding, and Long looked at the Gorosei 5 elders headed by him, a flash of fluctuation in his eyes, because he did not expect that, as the controller of the world government, he would take action in person. Humph! The revolutionary army has been entrenched for so many years. It is time to destroy it. The whole army is dispatched to annihilate the revolutionary army. There was no need to talk at all, and the Gorosei 5 elders directly signaled the attack. The whole army is attacking. Sengoku didn't say anything, he waved his hand directly, and countless warships began to send artillery fire, and slowly began to drown towards the island. On the side of the revolutionary army, there were also all kinds of artillery shells. For a time, the artillery fire continued, and the entire sea was turned upside down, billowing smoke, and the pavement opened. The cyan light flashed, and the dragon suddenly rushed up into the sky and slammed in the direction of all Marines. Then his hands turned into cyan scales and claws, filled with vast ferocity and orders, and pressed down sharply. Storm and thunder. There was a loud noise in the world, and endless black clouds appeared without warning. The sky and the hurricane swept wildly, setting off endless waves, and terrifying thunder, even slashing down. In an instant, it was dark, and the forces of natural disasters spread, forming a sky collapse, which continuously swept towards Marine. God! God! Marine on the edge, looked up at the corner of the sea, where, one after another, water tornadoes tore everything, accompanied by wind and rain, and escorted by thunder, as if nature was arrogant, ruthlessly towards them, swallowed up. In the face of this force, manpower simply cannot resist. Everyone be careful, Monkey D. Long is a zone mythical blue dragon fruit ability, and has the ability to control the destruction of the weather. Marine's coat was splashed by the wind, and Sengoku was soaked by the rain. He roared as he stared at the natural disaster swept in from all directions. At this moment, the center of the world seems to be surrounded by dragons. Now he is the god who controls the weather. This is the capital for Long to build the revolutionary army, and it is also the obstacle that the world government cannot destroy the revolutionary army. Just because Long is alone, he can resist countless forces. The number of people, in front of the dragon, is the death of the ants. Just control the weather and they can all be wiped out. Marshal Sengoku, many warships can't hold it anymore. There was Vice Admiral with a pale face. He saw with his own eyes the steel warship that used to be rampant in the sea. Under the torrent of the storm, it turned into dust without holding on for 5 seconds. Many Marines, before they could shout, turned into dust. Blood rain. Catch the thief first to capture the king, only to take down the dragon. Ugly face, Sengoku glanced at everyone and was about to take off. Wait a minute, the revolutionary army is already catching turtles in the urn. The victory was in hand, and at the critical moment, the leader of the Gorosei 5 elders spoke up. Lord Gorosei 5 elders, we are all losing every minute and every second. We must catch the dragon as soon as possible, or the consequences will be disastrous. Sengoku was in a hurry, and almost yelled at him, because every moment, it was Marine who lost. I have my own plans. Glancing sideways at Sengoku, the Gorosei 5 elders turned to face the robot beside him, and Vivi bent down. Please, Lord Tianwang, take action. Tone was respectful, and the Gorosei 5 elders dared not show the slightest arrogance. The words of Gorosei 5 elders were like depth charges, leaving Sengoku and the others' heads blank. Heaven, King of Heaven, it was unbelievable. Everyone opened their mouths slightly, looking at the expressionless robot in front of them in disbelief. Tianwang, how could it be a robot? It's hard to imagine that everyone's hearts are in a mess at this moment, because there are many speculations about Tianwang in the sea, but no one guessed that Tianwang will be an emotionless robot. The eyes were different. Except for the shock at the beginning, everyone else had different thoughts. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis. The robot finger suddenly lit up with a trace of black light, and the king was expressionless, aimed in one direction and launched an attack. In an eternity, the black ray that was only the size of chopsticks disappeared in the storm on the horizon in an instant. The next moment, silently, the waterspout that swept the world was so silent. The sudden action made the whole world quiet. In midair, the dragon's pupils shrank, his eyes fixed on the robot whose fingertips lit up with black rays of light again pointing in the other direction. Whoa, whoa. 10 streaks of black rays of light bloomed in a row, and the natural disaster that originally stirred the situation was so visible to the naked eye that all disappeared. In the sky, a ray of sunlight slanted down, and the entire dark sea area brightened in an instant. The storm disappeared, the wind and rain stopped, and the world turned upside down one moment, but the next moment it was calm. This contrast is unpredictable. Many people don't know what happened. The storm disappeared, and the dragon's face was a little ugly, and his eyes were fixed on the robot. Dragon, take it as soon as you can. For Garp's sake, I can leave you a whole corpse, because in front of the Heavenly King, you won't have any chance of winning. Standing on the bow, the Gorosei 5 elders sneered and sneered. Everything was under his control, and with just one king, he was sure to annihilate all enemies. The King of Heaven, it turned out to be the King of Heaven. The most mysterious king of ancient weapons. Ivankov and others widened their pupils and began to wonder if they had heard it wrong. 2. Chapter 372 Cloudy and sunny, the dragon was suspended in midair, with an extremely difficult expression on his face. He has been investigating the King of Heaven for a long time. He suspected that the King of Heaven might be an item or a weapon, but he never imagined that the King of Heaven would be a person and a robot. Ignoring the arrogance of the Gorosei 5 elders, the eyes of the dragon are on the king from start to finish. Kill me, kill all these thugs. No one dared to ignore the orders of the Gorosei 5 elders, for which Sengoku nodded and charged into the sky. Marine warship like a cut-off current. The chilling, terrifying sword energy makes the scalp numb. An emergency, Garp was born, his muscles were agitated, a trace of crimson smoke appeared on his body, his right fist was pitch black, and he heavily slammed into the slashing slash. The huge explosion caused countless waves. Garp's face froze, and he stood heavily on the ship, causing the entire warship to sink. The strength of the comber is very strong. It's him. This breath, whether it's Sengoku or Garp, is very familiar, and because of this, his expression sank. Surrounded by restrained sword energy, from far to near, a figure appeared in front of everyone out of thin air. Koshiro, you really joined the Revolutionary Army. Fists, Sengoku looked a little annoyed at the figure in the air. Kushiro, the owner of Shimotsuki Village Isshin Dojo. Kushiro is the owner of Zoro's hometown gym and the first master of Zoro. He once demonstrated the highest swordsmanship described by Guro Hana no Bing. If you don't want to cut, you can't even cut paper. He is a top swordsman in the hidden world. Sengoku, Garp, long time no see. Without relying on any power, Kushiro just hovered in the air, and after a little feeling, he would find that countless sword energy had spread around Kushiro. It seems that you have broken through the kendo of your dreams. Garp frowned, because the previous slash made his fist a little sore. Yes, I broke through the great swordsman and reached a new field. Raising his hand, you can see that in Kushiro's palm, countless embodied long swords have appeared, flying like life. You are finally here. On the other side, Long watched Kushiro appear, inexplicably relieved. The previous situation was not objective to him, but now Kushiro's appearance will completely subvert Marine's side. Sorry for being late. Kushiro withdrew his hand, and the real long sword disappeared. If a careful person observes Kushiro, he will find that he has no weapons and is completely empty-handed. What are you still doing? Gorosei, 5 elders gave a cold look and roared. Gritting their teeth, Sengoku and the others rushed directly to the island, intending to destroy the bear and others. Kill the dragon for me. Watching Garp and the others leave, Gorosei, 5 elders filled with killing intent and issued an order to the CPO beside him. Silently, the masked CPO disappeared and rushed straight to the dragon, while the Gorosei, 5 elders and the Heavenly King, standing on the warship, watched the battle that the two sides had already engaged in. Koshiro, I haven't fought with you for a long time, let me see how powerful the swordsman who surpassed the great swordsman is. Muscle agitation, Garp boiled with a deep red mist, and he came up with all his strength. Garp with such a serious expression, Kushiro did not dare to take it lightly, because he knew that this colleague in the past had already shown his true skills. You know, this is a monster that can dominate the sea simply with fighting technique and haki. Exactly, since I surpassed the great swordsman and became the sword god, no one has ever practiced against me. Sword light flashed in his eyes, Kushiro raised one hand, the entire sky was penetrated, a slash, boiling sonic boom, facing Garp, slashing away. Transformation Big Bang Fist. Blue veins spread, Garp stared, and the extremely terrifying armament of his right fist overflowed, as if holding the power of Tianbang, slashing at Kushiro and slamming it. Deafening, the slashes cracked layer by layer. Garp passed through the sword energy like a cannonball, and appeared in front of Kushiro. The sword energy was revealed, Kushiro's eyes narrowed, the endless sword energy ripped apart the space, condensed his right hand, faced Garp, and stabbed it down. The wind was surging, the huge fluctuations spread, and the river was overturned, and Garp and Kushiro flew out at the same time. With a pale face, Kushiro stood in the air, a little dignified. And Garp, on his right fist, overflowed with blood, because Kushiro's sword beam ripped apart his armament. You know, Garp's armament is the best in the world, but now, Kushiro can break through it, even if it's just a small wound. You can see how terrible the swordsman who surpasses the great swordsman is. With the battle between Garp and Kushiro, the rest began to collide, such as Dragon and CPO. Front of him, this CPO was also covered in mist, and he didn't use any abilities. He was obviously also a strong fighting technique expert. Unfortunately, he was only at the level of the ordinary 5 emperors, and he was countered by the dragon with just a few simple tricks. Living. The remaining Sengoku was dragged by Ivankov, because Sengoku was old after all. And Ryokugyu was entangled by Koala, Amazuna, and other Revolutionary Army cadres, unable to escape, and the remaining bears were deadlocked with Kizaru. As for Onagumo, the newly appointed admiral, he led the other vice-admiral and other marines to fight with the rest of the Revolutionary Army. For a time, blood splattered, and the chaotic battle spread to the entire island. The all-round war on this side, Sabayati Archipelago, Beckman and others appeared here. Beckman, where did the captain go? With some doubts, Usopp looked at Beckman who was smoking a cigarette alone, feeling that their team had changed since then. He couldn't describe that feeling, but it was real and made him extremely uncomfortable. Not only Usopp felt it, but so did everyone else. I don't know, just wait. A little irritable, Beckman lost his previous composure, and his face was full of exhaustion. At the same moment, in the Red Earth continent, Holy Land Mariajoy, Gorosei, 5 Elders Council Hall, a figure lifted his cloak, revealing that red hair. "Why are you here?" As the cloak slipped, originally sitting on the sand, the Gorosei, 5 elders who sent meditation, or were working on things, all frowned, looking at the man who shouldn't be here now. If someone appeared here at this time, they would definitely recognize that this red-haired man was the current 5 emperors, the red-haired Shanks. Somewhat terrifying, as the 5 emperors of the top pirates, the red hair will appear here, and looking at it, he is actually speaking with Gorosei, 5 elders on an equal footing. "Do you know D.'s location?" The 2 Gorosei, 5 elders who dealt with the business stopped writing, walked to the sofa and sat down, watching the Tenryubito who had volunteered to be undercover. "That's right, Shanks is Tenryubito, whose full name is Shanks Lee Rocks, one of the 10 existing Tenryubito families. Along with the Gorosei, 5 elders, there are 4 other Tenryubito families, that is, one of the 10 Tenryubito families that were not destroyed by the Imam, or that have retained their strength with the passage of time." Chapter 373 Why is there one person missing? Face. Shanks didn't answer what Gorosei, 5 elders said, but instead asked a question with a frown. "He took the King of Heaven and went to destroy the revolutionary army." Gorosei, 5 elders, who wiped the long sword, explained casually. "King of Heaven." Vivi's pupils shrank, and the red hair suppressed the restlessness in his heart. "After so many years of lurking, have you determined D.'s position?" Impatient, the blonde Gorosei, 5 elders asked again. "He was already starting to doubt me, even though I was lurking in Roger's boat as a springboard, he didn't believe me in the end." His face was a little ugly, and his red-haired eyes exuded coldness, as if he had changed a person. Even if Beckman and others were present, they would feel incredible, because the red hair in front of them would definitely make them feel unfamiliar. It seems that he only believes in the D family, and he deserves to be the prince who used to survive. A cold snort, the 4 Gorosei, 5 elders dismissed it. "Even 26, I suspect, he has already started to attack me." "So, you temporarily changed your decision and joined the First Emperor Pirates. Could it be that the First Emperor belongs to him?" The red-haired words made the 4 Gorosei, 5 elders' faces tighten. "I've been with the First Emperor Pirates for a while, and I have determined that the First Emperor is not D.'s subordinate, he should just use the First Emperor." The red-haired eyes exuded killing intent. How could he not know that he was abandoned? If he did not make a decision, it is very likely that he is now the soul of the First Emperor's subordinates. And this is also the real reason why the red hair took a step back and did not choose to fight Qin Luo, just because he was abandoned by D and wanted to kill him by borrowing the hands of the First Emperor. "It seems that you have been exposed, then come back. You are Tenryubito, it is time to enjoy your rights, this world will continue to last forever under our rule." "Yeah, I got this potion from the Experimental Research Institute of the First Emperor Pirates. It should allow my father to recover from some injuries and slowly recover to the peak, and then the world can be changed." The redhead looked at the light green potion bottle in his hand, with a sinister look on his face, revealing a wicked smile. "This potion is one of Caesar's recent researches, a super recovery potion, which was made by using devil fruit as a medicine. Unexpectedly, it was stolen by red hair before it was tested." "Then it won't delay you." The 4 Gorosei, 5 elders looked at each other, suppressed the fear in their hearts, and their faces were a little ugly, because if Shank's father regained his strength, then the Lee family would be the 10 of them. The strongest family in the Tenryubito family. As for why Gorosei, 5 elders are afraid, it is because Shank's father, named Rocks, once bored to the sea to play, dominated an era, and finally was accidentally defeated by Garp, which created Garp's reputation as a marine hero now. World thought Rocks was dead, including Garp, but no one knew that Rocks was still alive and had an interview with Imam with the Gorosei, 5 elders and the other 4 family leaders not long ago. Of the 10 strongest Tenryubito families in existence, except for the families of the Gorosei, 5 elders themselves, these 5 remain. The Aphagorine family, Hephaestus family, Dionysus family, family of Atlas. Now Shank's family, the Lee family, and it is Shank's father, Rox, who controls the Lee family, who, like the Gorosei, 5 elders, is the one who lived in power for more than 800 years. As for the birth of Shanks, it was born accidentally during the time when Rox was bored to be a pirate in the sea. It is hard to imagine that the remaining 5 Tenryubito family leaders belong to the elderly like the Gorosei, 5 elders, so the birth of Shanks is a miracle, belonging to the kind of old-timers. And this old man has a terrifying talent, and even the Gorosei, 5 elders dare not underestimate his current strength. This is also the reason why the Lee family can still maintain its peak when the Rocks lose their strength, just because Shanks is fully capable of becoming the power of the Lee family. For the Gorosei, 5 elders, expulsion order, left the main hall, and walked towards the center of the Holy Land. Counting the time, I haven't seen that old guy for many years. The center of the Holy Land, as far as the eye can see, is full of splendid buildings, and the extravagant ones are all going, crystal, amber, etc., which looks extremely beautiful. The further you go to the center, the more common this situation is. However, there are still some ordinary-looking buildings in the center. Of course, these buildings are for this place, but they are also extravagant when placed on the sea. The red-haired face was expressionless. On the way home, some nobles along the way, even Tenryubito, lowered their heads when they saw the red-haired, daring not to be a little arrogant. There used to be Tenryubito, because Rox lost his power, he was very arrogant and arrogant in front of the red hair. As a result, there was no result, because the red hair killed that Tenryubito and his servants in the street. That incident was still a sensation in Mariajoy. Finally, not long after walking, a garden villa that looked very ordinary came into the eyes of the redhead. "Master, it is the young master who is back, sir, the young master is back." Old in the distance, some maids were very excited when they saw the red hair. Don't look at these maids as soft and weak, in fact, the lowest level is Rear Admiral level. In the garden not far away, a Rox who looked a little younger than Gorosei, 5 elders, was carrying a kettle, leisurely watering the flower bed, and turned around when he heard the maids cry. "Old man, it doesn't look like he's going to die." Walking into the garden, the redhead looked at the old man in front of him and smiled. "Enough to play outside." Rox rolled his eyes, he really admired and spoiled this son. "Well, I found something that will restore your strength." "Is that the potion in your hand?" There was no change in Rox's face, as if he looked down on everything in the world. "You don't seem to be very excited." He frowned and looked at the old man with red hair, which was somewhat unexpected. "I've lived more than 800 years and I haven't seen anything, so I'm so excited, but I'm very happy." Rox saw what the redhead did. His son, unlike other Tenryubitos, only knew how to enjoy, but by his own will, he became the 5th emperor and possessed a power that was almost the same as his own, which was very gratifying for Rox. Chapter 374 I haven't been back for several years. How long are you going to stay? I'll be leaving in one night. Oh, Rox just frowned. Tonight you recover your strength, I will guard. It's not in a hurry, let's go eat first. The screen switches to the Shemale Kingdom. Boom, boom. The stump was broken, and the flames were burning into the sky. From a distance, the entire island was red with fire. The Revolutionary Army and Marine were fighting together. There were morning and artillery fire everywhere. Horrible to see, the cracked ground has been stained red with blood, and the situation is chaotic. The battle at the bottom is far more tragic than imagined. Either you die or I die. Internal organs, blood foam, and minced meat are flying at any time. At the scene, no one is intact. Lord Tianwang, please take action to deal with that person. Standing on the warship, Gorosei 5 elders were a little angry, with killing intent in their eyes, because in the deep space, the dragon actually tore the CPO to shreds. It can be seen that at this moment, The dragon's body is covered with cyan scales, and his hands have long been turned into sharp claws, like a human-shaped Tyrannosaurus, dragging a thick tail, exuding a powerful ferocity that makes all things surrender. The blood was flying, and the dragon was standing in the air, holding the half-length CPO in his hand. The bloody appearance made people tremble. Looking at this situation, Gorosei 5 elders felt a little apprehensive in their hearts, and they never thought of doing it themselves, but asked the King of Heaven. The longer you live, the more afraid of death. This is not just a talk. Because long years are enough to change a person. The mechanical pupils without fluctuations stared, silently, and the king disappeared on the ship. With the disappearance of the King of Heaven, Gorosei 5 elders looked to other war zones, and did not know where to take out a dagger, which disappeared in an instant. On the other side, there is a big Buddha, covered with dazzling golden light. The mechanical arm originally equipped has long been tattered, and now Sengoku is fighting with Ivankov with one hand. Sengoku, watch my shemale boxing. The endless afterimages, Ivankov spun around Sengoku, and every punch and every kick could smash a mountain. The face of Ivankov's continuous attacks, Sengoku, who only had one arm left, could only resist, because Sengoku was really powerless. As the years eroded, his body could no longer maintain a high-intensity battle. Sengoku is not a GARP. So many years of handling marine government affairs alone is enough to drag down Sengoku's mind and body. In addition, Chinluo's broken arm, and his aging, the level of the original 5 emperors has dropped directly to the ordinary admiral level. It can be said that Sengoku was completely dragged down by marine government affairs. Damn, diaresis. The powerful golden shock wave spread out a terrifying gully. Sengoku stared, watching Ivankov find an opportunity, appeared in front of him, and kicked his stomach. Blood spilled, Sengoku's face turned pale, and he took a few steps back. I didn't expect that the former Martial Marine would have retreated to this level. It's a pity. If it was before, Ivankov would never have imagined that he would have such a day, that he would be able to press the opponent to fight like this. The dazzling golden light illuminated the entire venue, and I saw countless golden arms raised from behind Sengoku, like a thousand-handed guanyin, stepping towards Ivankov. The powerful shock wave continued to spread, and Ivankov, who had been somewhat contented, changed his face on the spot. Shemale profound truth hormonal clone. Smoke and dust splashed, and Ivankov's 10 fingertips exuded a cold light, and slammed into his body. After a twitch, an afterimage was born. 10 Ivankovs, dodging from different directions, rushed towards Sengoku. Smoke and dust splashed, and the powerful impact lifted the surface. Sengoku's eyes narrowed, observation hockey, and stretched out. Boom, boom. Ground exploded, and the 10 Ivankovs seemed to be real, and they were banging against Sengoku's 1,000 hands. For a time, one big and one small banged, setting off endless gravel and dust. Suddenly, the avatar shattered, Sengoku's 1,000 hands disappeared, jumped high, and Ivankov gathered all his strength, facing Sengoku, and slammed it. At the same time, Sengoku gritted his teeth, and the only remaining right arm was blue veins jumping, forming a large shock wave, and Ivankov slammed together. A wave of air also formed air pressure, lifted the surface, and roared out of the landslide. The blood soared to the sky, and Ivankov turned into a cannonball, rolled on the ground, moved out of a gully, and with a huge explosion, lay in a pile of rubble. Contrary, Sengoku only took a few steps back, but the state of the Buddha disappeared. He was sweating profusely, half kneeling on the ground, and spitting blood from his mouth. And Ivankov's strength was still a little off. Cough, cough. I'm so old, yet still have such strong strength. With blood all over his face, Ivankov got up from the gravel, feeling that it was a little difficult to breathe, and looked up at the lonely man in the distance. Old man, with fear flashing in his eyes. At this moment, like a teleportation, the previous Gorosei 5 elders appeared in front of Ivankov, the dagger in his hand, aimed at Ivankov's chest, and stabbed it. All of this happened so fast that there was no sign at all. Die, ants. His eyes were cold, and along with the sound of the sharp weapon piercing the flesh, the dagger, which was 30 meters long, stabbed hard on Ivankov's chest. The blood was stained red. You. Face collapsed, and Ivankov vomited blood, clutching Gorosei, 5 elders with both hands, unable to believe it. Holding the dagger tightly, Gorosei, 5 elders showed a hint of viciousness, turned sharply, accompanied by a scream. Ivankov raised his eyes, and that disgusting big face was even more distorted. Ivan. The rest of the battlefield heard this scream, and they all looked anxious and wanted to rush over. High in the sky, the face of the dragon also changed, defending the destructive attacks of the king, and roared, "Do it, don't hide." This sentence seems to be said to everyone, or just to individual people, which is very strange. Across the sky, Kizaru held the Tiankong cloud sword and confronted the bear. At this moment, the dragon's roar made the two look at each other, and then nodded indifferently, and the bear rushed directly in the direction of Ivankov. In the past, and Kizaru was chasing after him. The air bounced, and the speed of the bear, faster than anyone else, just appeared in front of Ivankov in the blink of an eye, and the meatball in his right hand compressed the air and blasted towards Gorosei, 5 elders. Disappeared in an instant. Gorosei, 5 elders didn't have a hard time resisting, but just flashed by Sengoku's side. Just then, the shining photons condensed, and Kizaru appeared beside Gorosei, 5 elders and Sengoku. Diaresis, Marshal, Lord Gorosei, 5 elders, are you all right? Some panting. Kizaru's breath was very unstable, and he looked at the bear vigilantly. It's all right, they have no chance of winning this battle. With the victory in hand, Gorosei, 5 elders gave a gloomy laugh and looked up at the horizon, where the dragon was suppressed by the Heavenly King and could not get out at all. Not far away, Ryokugyu is also pressing Koala, Amazuna and others. As for Garp, he was still fighting with Kushiro, and he was already in a fever, and Onagumo and others also had the upper hand. Now that Ivankov was seriously injured and dying, and only Bear was alone, he couldn't resist himself, Sengoku, and Kizaru. This time, the revolutionary army was sure to lose. Cough. Pale face, Ivankov's heart, blurred, was lifted up by the bear, and blood blisters continued to bubbling from his mouth, and it was obvious that he could no longer hold it. Little, be careful, that's a sea stone dagger. Unwilling, Ivankov grabbed the bear's hand, his eyes began to disintegrate. Jiao Nuohao. Ivan. The face changed again and again. No matter how the bear shouted, Ivankov did not have the strength to answer, because the breath of life had completely disappeared. Putting down Ivankov, the bear stood up, his eyes filled with murderous intent, and the meatballs in his hands began to vibrate continuously. Ivankov's fatal injury, even if his ability can pop out damage, can't save it. Reaching out, the bear used his ability on himself. In just a short while, a layer of light red bubbles ran out of the bear's body, and the bear's originally chaotic aura immediately returned to peak play. Kizaru, get rid of him. Tall, Gorosei, 5 elders snorted coldly, without taking the bear in their eyes at all, and gave orders directly to Kizaru. Lord Gorosei, 5 elders, now. Up! Kizaru swiped with one hand, and a Tiankong cloud sword was held in his hand in an instant, but the direction of the stab was Gorosei, 5 elders. PFF'd. The sound of a sharp weapon piercing through flesh and blood sounded again, and scarlet blood flowers bloomed. Gorosei, 5 elders grimaced, lowered his head, and looked at the lightsaber that pierced his waist in disbelief. You. Chapter 375 You. Of his mouth, Gorosei, 5 elders widened their eyes and looked up at Kizaru with a calm face in disbelief. I'll send you to hell right now. The calm and wretched face began to change. Kizaru held the Amakusa cloud sword tightly and twisted it hard. On the spot, Gorosei, 5 elders couldn't bear it and knelt directly on the ground. Kizaru, what are you doing? Behind him, Sengoku felt that the sky was falling, and a bad premonition surrounded him directly. Sengoku clenched his fists and slammed towards Kizaru angrily. Although he didn't believe it, the facts in front of him told him that Kizaru had defected. Boom! The momentum spread, and a shock wave was mercilessly rebounded, and the bear appeared behind Kizaru, and Sengoku slammed it. The whole ground exploded, Sengoku vomited blood, and hit the ground directly. Ignoring the riots behind him, Kizaru's right foot flickered with golden light, and the boiling armament was far greater than before, and then stepped heavily on the chest of Gorosei, 5 elders. Accompanied by a click, Gorosei, 5 elders' chest collapsed, a pair of eyes that almost broke free from their sockets, full of distortions. The teleportation fruit, you show me teleportation. As if there was some deep hatred, Kizaru looked a little abnormal. He stepped on the chest of Gorosei, 5 elders with his right foot, pulled out the Tiankong cloud sword, stabbed Gorosei, 5 elders again, and finally killed Gorosei, 5 elders. Nailed to the ground. Eternal life, I see if you can live forever. Giving Gorosei, 5 elders a chance to talk nonsense at all, he lifted his right foot, and the golden light bloomed again, aiming at Gorosei, 5 elders' heads. No, no, Kizaru. Go to hell. There was a sudden explosion, blood and brains flew, and as the dust dissipated, a headless corpse lay on the ground in a bloody blur. All this happened so fast and unbelievable. Gorosei, 5 elders, who lived for more than 800 years, the ruler of the world government, just died, and the person who killed him was Marine Admiral Kizaru. Gorosei, 5 elders. Getting up from the ground, Sengoku's eyes were bloodshot, unable to believe what he was seeing. When he died so easily. As the most powerful person in the sea, he died so silently. Kizaru, do you know what you're doing? Standing up staggeringly, Sengoku roared, his expression a little broken, CGAC. Marshal Sengoku, I know. Calm face, Kizaru spread his hands, as if he had done a trivial thing, and stood with the bear. You are an undercover agent of the Revolutionary Army. Now, even an idiot knows Kizaru's identity, and for that, Sengoku almost squeezed the words out of his teeth. It's always been, didn't I tell you? Digging out his ears, Kizaru looked at Sengoku nonchalantly, and asked a question very generously. You traitor! With a roar, Sengoku was furious, disregarding the physical trauma, forcibly used the form of a big Buddha, and charged towards Kizaru and the bear. I'll leave it to you. After all, I'm an acquaintance. I can't do it. Looking at the angry Sengoku, Kizaru didn't care. After saying a word to the bear, he turned into photons and began to slowly dissipate. The bear didn't speak, just disappeared in place, facing the shock wave from Sengoku's attack. It's a pity that the bear's ability is too strong, and every time Sengoku's shock wave is rebounded, it doesn't have much effect at all. At this time, in the sky, the dragon who was fighting the Heavenly King felt the breath of the disappearance of the Gorosei, 5 elders, and breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that Kizaru's decades of undercover work were not in vain. In fact, the reason why the Revolutionary Army is today, half of the credit should be attributed to Kizaru, because every time the world government makes a move against them, it is the news that Kizaru leaked in advance, and there are many scientific and technological materials, marine combat plans, and so on have played a very important role in the Revolutionary Army. Now that the world government has taken full action against the Revolutionary Army, Kizaru no longer needs to hide his identity, because if he hides it, it will have no effect. Withdrew his mind, the dragon looked solemn, observation hockey spread with high intensity, back and forth to avoid the opposite attack. Strong, really strong, it is simply a killing weapon without emotion. The robot in front of him, every time it attacks, is so heavy. This is not the so-called ancient weapon at all, but like a strong man, except for the terrifying energy. Attack, fighting technique, hockey, and him are no different. Bent over, the air above his head whine, and the powerful sonic boom spreads, setting off the dragon's hair. Turning sideways, the dragon's tail wrapped in cyan scales ripped apart the atmosphere and rushed towards the heavenly king. The powerful air waves spread out, and the dragon was in pain, and clenched his teeth directly to the side, because at this moment, a hole was broken in the dragon's tail, blood was dripping, and there was still a force that was constantly eroding him. Retracting his fingertips, the king had no emotion, and rushed to the dragon again, because it was instructed to kill the creature in front of him. At the same time, in the direction of Ryokugyu, Koala and Amazuna were almost in a circle, and had already lost their fighting power. In an emergency, the golden light condensed, and Kizaru appeared on Ryokugyu's head, kicked it out directly. A huge roar, Ryokugyu frowned, his right hand was horizontal and vertical, and stopped directly in front of his face. However, the huge impact made him keep retreating. Smoke cleared, Ryokugyu returned to his original body, looking at Kizaru who was standing in the air with an ugly face, a little unclear. "You're crazy, shoot at me. Battle circle may be a little far away." And at this moment Ryokugyu has no idea that Kizaru killed the Gorosei, 5 elders, and is still an undercover agent of the Revolutionary Army. Behind them, Koala and Amazuna, who were seriously injured, were also confused. "Ryokugyu, give up your resistance. The Gorosei, 5 elders, are dead." Kizaru had a serious face. The man in front of him was not easy to deal with. He could solve problems with words, but he would not choose to do it. "What do you mean?" Eyes narrowed, and Ryokugyu had a bad premonition. "Ryokugyu, you are a good person, leave Marine and come to the Revolutionary Army." Ryokugyu's face, Kizaru had a panoramic view. For this, he threw an olive branch without hesitation. Kizaru's words completely dispelled the fluke in Ryokugyu's heart. For a while, Ryokugyu's suspicious look turned gloomy. Although he didn't want to believe it in his heart, Kizaru's words had already confirmed the truth. This man, the Pillar of Marine, was a member of the Revolutionary Army. I didn't expect that the famous Marine Admiral Kizaru would be an undercover agent of the Revolutionary Army. No anger, no roar, Ryokugyu's face was cold, just staring at Kizaru. "Ryokugyu, come to the Revolutionary Army. We need your strength." Out, Kizaru once again threw an olive branch. After all, in the sea, Ryokugyu's combat power is also top-notch. If Ryokugyu joins the Revolutionary Army, they are more certain to overthrow the world government. Chapter 376 Traitor. Kizaru's solicitation again made Ryokugyu's eyes turn cold. "Looks like you've made a decision." Withdrawing his hand, Kizaru's face also became condensed, and murderous intent began to fill his eyes. Roar. Breathtakingly, the whole earth was cracked, and countless cracks were torn out. With a roar that seemed to come from ancient times, the smoke and dust dispersed, and a beast with a gray chaotic storm floating around its body, its eyes shining like thunder, carrying the sound of wind and rain, filled with rolling fierceness, rushed towards Kizaru. Kizaru stopped talking, and made a move directly. And condensing, Kizaru appeared on top of Ryokugyu's head, with a kick containing terrifying energy and pulled towards Ryokugyu. Deafening, Ryokugyu's eyes were red, and the beast fist was filled with gray destructive power, not far behind, blasting towards Kizaru's right foot. The huge explosion formed an origin, turned into a halo, lifted the surface, and rushed all around. The center of the smog, Kizaru had a serious expression, and with a swipe of his left hand, the Tiankong cloud sword slashed down, and Ryokugyu, without any sign of flinching, punched from the ground, turned into a cannon, and slammed into the Tiankong cloud sword. The two men's coats were swayed directly, and then the whole ground sank, and Ryokugyu pulled away and appeared to the side. The photon condensed, followed closely. Kizaru appeared behind Ryokugyu, once again condensed a lightsaber, aimed at Ryokugyu's back heart, and inserted it. Observation haki and the instinct of the beast made Ryokugyu aware of the danger behind him. The beast fist was filled with destructive energy, and even directly grabbed the cloud sword of Tiankong, making it difficult for Kizaru to advance. The sparks continued to explode. Kizaru twisted his body, his right foot lit up and kicked Ryokugyu's head. Roar! Shark teeth and roaring beasts. Kizaru felt a roar in his head, and then, a beast fist filled with black thunder and slammed into Kizaru's right foot. Brilliant like a flower, that enormous power made Kizaru use his elementalization. His body appeared on the side, reunited, and twisted his feet extremely unnaturally. And Ryokugyu, gasping for 2 air currents between his nose, gray-black hair all over his body, standing upright, more and more violent. The most important thing is that Ryokugyu is flashing with thunder that is full of destruction, and this kind of thunder is black. Buzz, pat, ripples in the atmosphere. Ryokugyu was filled with fierceness, and the black thunder around him slashed on the ground from time to time, forming potholes. These black thunders have very powerful destructive power. Is this the natal ability you awaken to? Gritting his teeth, Kizaru looked serious, feeling the pitch-black thunder around Ryokugyu, and a trace of fear flashed in his heart. Mythical's awakening may not be known to ordinary people, but for people of Kizaru's level, it is not a secret, but because he knows it, he is afraid. Reason why mythical is rarer than Logia is because after mythical awakens, it will get a natal ability, perhaps fire, or frost. No matter which one it is rare and very powerful. The most famous one is Kaido's natal ability to protect itself. It was because of this natal ability that Kaido ran rampant and recklessly on the sea. Once, Marine was often helpless under Kaido's natal ability. Even if he finally caught Kaido, he couldn't kill him. And now, Ryokugyu has also used the natal ability brought by his awakening to destroy the Black Thunder. Kizaru's question did not get an answer, because at this moment Ryokugyu stared at the red eyes the size of the copper bell, and his body VV squatted, turned into a lightning bolt, and disappeared in place. So fast. Pupils shrank. Kizaru looked at Ryokugyu, who seemed to have turned into a black thunder, and his figure quickly rose up. Dazzling light shone all over his body, and made an attack. Yasukani no Magatama. The endless shining light bullets, densely packed, like rain, all rushed towards Ryokugyu. In the face of such a powerful and intensive attack, Ryokugyu also made a move, turning black thunder all over his body, and blasting out a punch, which directly spread out endless black thunder, causing the entire sky not only to explode, but also to form a long river. Sky, Ryokugyu seemed to have turned into a thunderbolt, even keeping up with Kizaru's speed. For a time, one black and one gold, entangled endlessly, spread across the entire sky. Heart palpitated. Kizaru wanted to yell at him, because there were only a few people who could compete with him in terms of speed. Among them, the one that Kizaru recognizes most is Nami, the god of thunder from the First Emperor Pirates. Besides that guy, there are many people who can keep up with his speed, such as First Emperor Shang. However, what Kizaru agrees with the most is Nami, because despite various factors, only Nami can compete with Kizaru. But now, one more person has to be added, which makes Kizaru very unhappy. On the other side, the situation is a little more tragic. Flying out, the entire ground tore apart, and a hill disappeared. Unrecognizable, the rubble on the ground has been dyed red with blood, full of a pungent bloody smell. Cough, cough. Bending to his side, Sengoku held his chest, his face pale. The strong footsteps sounded, the air was shaking, and the bear was expressionless, his hands joined together, and a burst of transparent bubbles was constantly compressed. Bear, shaking up, Sengoku's coat, which he didn't know where it fell, was now topless, full of wounds, and his breath was extremely weak. Without any words, the bear squeezed the air and finally opened his hands to Sengoku. Transparent, petite, like a bear's paw, full of cuteness. But it is such a cute little bear's paw, and the destructive power contained in it is enough to destroy a mountain. Bear's paw shock. Getting closer and closer, the huge energy continued to overflow. Sengoku gritted his teeth, his right hand filled with golden light, and tried his best to fight back. Booba's shock. The golden light was dazzling, the white inside was transparent, and the two shock waves collided. Boom, boom. Like an earthquake, in the darkness, a powerful air wave blows, forming a storm, constantly destroying everything. Mouth to vomit blood, Sengoku's eyes were white, like a meteorite, and he flew out backwards, while the bear, being counterattacked by the impact, sank his feet into the ground, a trace of blood spilled from his mouth, and hit a barren mountain. The burning sky exploded, and a mushroom cloud towered into the clouds, blowing away the endless dark clouds. The body collapsed, almost covered with bruises, and fell into the rubble. Sengoku's face was pale, it was difficult to breathe, and he was completely lost in combat. The gravel was pushed aside. Deep in the barren mountains, Shang stepped out of his life, and there was a wound on his left shoulder. At this moment, the machine inside was exposed, flashing with electric light. Obviously, the situation was not as good as it seemed on the surface. At this moment, suddenly, a azure light descended from the sky, shaking the whole earth in an instant, setting off an unprecedented wave. Cracks spread one after another, forming a huge tianqing, and countless boulders flew because they could not bear the impact. Shot all around. The dust dissipated, revealing what was inside. I saw Long Ban kneeling on the ground, blood dripping from his mouth, his expression a little painful. "Dragon, are you all right?" The figure appeared, the face of the bear changed, and some couldn't believe the appearance of the dragon at the moment. When the ability was used, a group of pale red bubbles emerged from the dragon's body. The dragon, which had a somewhat fluctuating breath, stabilized in an instant. The previously consumed physical strength and injuries all returned to normal. "Thanks." Standing up, the dragon looked at the bear and thanked him, then his expression became serious, and he looked at the midair. 2. Chapter 377 At the same time, an unbearable pressure suddenly fell from the sky, covering the entire island, and for a while, all the people who were fighting stopped the fight subconsciously. "What is that?" Shang's pupils Vivi shrank, looking at the white light group in the sky, like a bright moon, exuding an incomparably soft and holy aura. Start, Mechanical Model, Angel Phase 1. Quote. Cold, without any emotion, the white light group shattered, and the endless brilliance was projected in all directions. Once again, everyone narrowed their eyes slightly, and the next moment, all their pupils widened. Drifting down, white as rain, wisps of mechanical feathers like goose feathers bloom, and in the sky, a pair of wide mechanical feathers spread out, shining with endless brilliance. One after another divine brilliance, holy and unique, makes it impossible to provoke any blasphemy. Pupils open, supreme and holy, no doubt a mechanical angel, a perfect god. This breath. Distance, Garp and Kushiro looked into the air at the same time. Is this the legendary mechanical angel? Koala, who had recovered a little physical strength, had his eyes blurred, because the mechanical angel in the sky was so beautiful. The war stopped at this moment, and everyone was rendered by the endless brilliance, peaceful and holy breath, lost their arrogance and fell into softness. What's the matter? The cessation of the war, except for a trace of strangeness, because more and more people have put down their weapons and stared obsessively at the mechanical angel shrouded in divine brilliance in the sky. This power. Blood on the tip of his tongue, Onagumo woke up, looking at the obsessed crowd around him, a trace of fear flashed in his heart, and silently, he actually controlled everyone. That person is really terrible. In a war that can't be seen at a glance, except for those with a strong will, all of them have fallen into obsession. Is this the real king? Observation Hockey Radiation. The dragon feels the calm island, the heart palpitations cannot stop. No wonder the king is the first of the three ancient weapons. I am afraid this method is only the iceberg of the king. The powerful breath, the power of disobedience, the true form of the King of Heaven, flashed out at this moment. An accident occurs, the executive officer disappears, the second form of the mechanical angel is activated, and all life forms are destroyed. Suddenly, the breath changed, and the mechanical pupils, which were originally emotionless, were instantly dark, like a black hole, and a dead silence covered the whole world. The mechanical wings stretched out, visible to the naked eye. The originally holy brilliance became dark and full of destruction. All of this changed too quickly. At this moment, Uranus is like an inanimate machine, acting with only one program, and with the disappearance of the Gorosei, 5 elders, Uranus's program comes to the end, automatically liberating the destruction command. The mechanical wings are dark, like an angel who has fallen into darkness, exuding endless evil, which is completely opposite to the holy breath just now. Silently, countless spots of light suddenly filled the dark wings, and then became bigger and hotter. The atmosphere is whining, the space is vibrating. Hey! Condensed to the extreme, splendid in brilliance, densely packed, countless jet-black beams, piercing the speed of sound, from the pair of huge jet-black wings, like a meteor shower, toward the earth, falling down. Boom, boom. In an instant, the black light fell, and each beam was like a nuclear bomb, causing the earth to collapse, forming a piece of mushroom cloud, connecting the heaven and the earth one after another. Ah! Be careful. Ihong was everywhere, and a vertical black light fell, with a radius of 1,000 meters, directly turning into dust. Countless Marines and revolutionary troops, all evaporated from the world. At this moment, a sword light rose up and exploded violently, causing Kushiro's feet to sink deep into the ground, and his right hand trembled. This black on turned out to be the level of the ordinary 5 emperors. You must know that this is not one, but hundreds of thousands. Without hesitation, just such a black on is completely capable of sinking a small island and a large island. Split. Indiscriminate attack, the same is true for others, there is no way to avoid it, and it must be faced with difficulties. Iron Fist bombarded, and Garp smashed the black light with one blow. His feet were deep in the ground, and there was a dignified look in his eyes. Boom, boom. The continuous explosions and the air pressure like volcanic eruptions are simply unstoppable. This is a natural disaster, this is a catastrophe, and those who survived have long lost their tinnitus. It took a full 10 minutes of continuous explosions, and the shock like moving mountains and reclaiming the sea was subdued. The Shemale Kingdom, a large island, disappeared, all around, an abyss, bottomless, cut off the sea and turned into a sky. In the sky, some surviving people, suspended by various means, all turned pale, looking at the abyss beneath their feet in disbelief. Hundreds of thousands of revolutionary troops and marine turned into dust. This destructive force is one of the 3 ancient weapons, the most mysterious king. Most importantly, the destruction process is not over yet. Life still exists, continue to execute destruction. The black hole-like pupils stared at Garp, Long and the others. The jet-black wings stretched out again, and countless jet-black rays of light began to shine again. Not good. Everyone, at this moment, all their hairs exploded, and their expressions were full of horror. Now, no one is divided into camps, because the object of the king's destruction is all of them. The endless black light once again turned into a long river, spanning the entire sky, indiscriminately flocking to the Revolutionary Army and Marine's powerhouse. A black light is the level of the ordinary 5 emperors, not to mention this kind of black light is still continuous, the destructive power of the king is unobstructed at this moment. The most important thing is that this kind of terrifying intensive attack does not seem to consume much for the king, and the horror in it cannot be explained. The scene, once again out of control, the people who survive the first black light of destruction, at this moment, do their best power, exerting his own power, resisting these rays of destruction, and letting himself live as much as possible. The sky is dark, endless brilliance, the entire sky is roaring constantly, a mighty dark river erupts with endless destructive energy, overwhelming the sky, and indiscriminately carrying out a comprehensive cleanup. Ripples in the atmosphere, mushroom clouds, burning flames and gunpowder, forming torrential weather waves, tearing apart the sky, forming a state of great collapse. Depending on their means, at this moment, everyone is like a great enemy, resisting the black light coming from the lacing. Ah! The black light penetrated, the sky exploded, and a Marine Vice Admiral disappeared without a trace, not even a corpse, turning into a rain of blood. The screams continued, and the entire sky was roaring. The more and more people who survived the first round began to burst into flames like fireworks, and they were completely destroyed. Chapter 378 Koala, Amazuna. Suspended in midair, a black on shot directly into the chests of Koala and Amazuna. The two had been seriously injured because of the battle with Ryokugyu. Now they are facing the cleanup of the Heavenly King, and it is difficult to resist. Powerful air swayed, and Koala and Amazuna disappeared in the eyes of Shang, Long and others. Whoa, whoa. However, this endless black glow continued unabated, starting slowly, even the top experts like Garp couldn't support it. After all, every black on is like the full-strength strike of the ordinary 5 emperors, and 1 or 2 can be said, but if there are countless such attacks, then it will be a nightmare. Iron Fist trembled, Garp disappeared, and after shattering a black light, he supported Sengoku with one hand. At this moment, Sengoku's image is a bit miserable, and he is almost on the verge of dying. If Garp didn't make an emergency move, he might be dead now. Garp Vice Admiral, Marshal Sengoku, let's retreat. Ryokugyu clenched his fists and used his life ability to form a black thunder barrier in front of everyone, which kept bleeding from his mouth. Marshal Sengoku, order it. Onagumo and other surviving 26th Marines also blushed and used all means to stop Himeng. If they didn't leave, they would be unable to hold on. Cough, cough. Supported by Garp, Sengoku turned pale, looked up at the King of Heaven, and then at the betrayed Kizaru, gritted his teeth, and said with difficulty, retreat. As Sengoku and others, and almost at the same time, both sides planned to retreat. At this moment, the King of Heaven is like the energy that will never run out. If you stay any longer, everyone will only die. However, just as everyone was retreating, the Central King changed again. Warning, warning, lifeforms are fleeing, activate the 3rd form of the angel, and finally destroy the 4-winged seraph. The dazzling light, standing in the sky, boundless breath, like the arrival of the gods, a circle of light, starting from the King of Heaven, carrying the storm and thunder, and the mighty destruction came out. The endless brilliance makes people unable to open their eyes. The form of the king has changed again. There was a pair of white wings behind only a pair of jet black wings. Sacred and evil, 1 white and 1 black, 4 wings spread out, countless white dots wrapped around black dots, the number doubled, and the destructive power rose again. This breath. Everyone stopped and felt the soaring breath behind them, and their whole body stiffened. If it was said that the breath of the Heavenly King was the high-level 5 emperors, then now it is the top 5 emperors, the most unsurpassed power in this world. Can't you even leave? Someone turned pale and looked at the 4-winged angel in the center, 1 white and 1 black, in fear. He intuitively told him that he couldn't resist the black light emitted by the king now. The death of the Gorosei 5 elders should have started the final program of the Heavenly King, destroying all living things, and it is impossible to escape. Dragon means. Everyone swallowed. Defeat the Heavenly King. Holding the dragon's claws tightly, the dragon's face turned grim. Now, as long as you are not a fool, you can guess this situation. For this reason, Sengoku and Long looked at each other, communicated silently, and finally made up his mind. The two sides can no longer care about whether it is the enemy's problem, but should find a way to defeat the king and save their lives. Onagumo, protect Sengoku, Ryokugyu and I go to stop the King of Heaven. The mist rose, Garp stern. Okay, Ryokugyu nodded. On the side of the Revolutionary Army, Ryu also made a decision. Koshiro stay, Shang and Kizaru, the 3 of us will stop the king. Ryu glanced at Garp's side, then greeted Kushiro and Kizaru. Happy to accompany. And Kizaru are ready. It was at this moment that the King of Heaven launched an attack once again, and there was an endless stream of white and black torrents that covered the sky and covered everyone, covering the past. Rush. Instead of retreating, they advanced, and the two sides rushed directly towards the King of Heaven. All in the form of a beast, with golden light and bulging muscles, the two sides, a total of 5 people, turned into monstrous beasts, facing the endless torrent, going step by step. The dazzling streamer splattered, and everyone gritted their teeth and squeezed their strength. However, the power is too strong, and this torrent cannot be resisted by human power at all. Just halfway through, someone vomited blood and turned pale. "Dragon, this is not the way to go, we will be dragged to death," Kizaru shouted with fear in his eyes. At this moment, the dragon was also clenching his teeth, looking at the destructive force that was constantly pounding around him. A drop of hot sweat began to run across his forehead. There must be a way, a way. After racking his brains, Long's intuition told him that there must be flaws. Calm down, calm down. There, every time it attacks, there will be a gap of time to attack it. As soon as the words fell, everyone first launched an attack in unison, collided with the king, and let the bear attack. There, the slight deviation of 800 allowed everyone to find an opportunity. Disappeared in an instant, the bear passed through the torrent and appeared in front of the king, with a shock wave in his hand, and slammed down at the body of the king. Warning, warning, under attack, activate angel defense. The pupils were empty, and the cold voice spit out from the mouth of the king, and a layer of black and white protective shield immediately surrounded the king. The shock wave of the bear hit the protective cover directly, causing a ripple. At this moment, the golden light condensed, Kizaru appeared in the sky above Tenno, and also made an attack, Yasukani no Magatama. Countless light bullets hit the protective cover of the king. Then, Garp got close, and his fist spread with blue veins, as if condensing the power of a landslide, followed closely behind Kizaru, and slammed into the shield. At the same moment, Ryokugyu deceived himself, compressing the black thunder light in his hand, accompanied by a huge roar, and came into a close contact with the protective shield. In the end, the dragon also made an attack, and a burst of dragon breath was sprayed out directly. Crack, kick. The protective shield was far from being as powerful as it had imagined. Facing the joint attack of everyone, it finally couldn't stand it and shattered. Fragments flew, the beautiful black and white feathers scattered, the king was expressionless, the machine began to tear for no reason, and flew out directly. Chapter 379 The air vibrated, as if no pain could be felt. The heavenly king had no emotion and stabilized his body. The 4 wings of the Vivi were folded, and the 5 black and white light beams that reached the sky produced a sonic boom, strangling them towards the crowd. The explosions continued, the gorgeous energy spilled out, and the 5 people exerted their power to collide with the piercing attack. In an instant, and in the blink of an eye, the bear appeared in front of the king, compressing the air again, forming a shock wave, and slamming away at the king's chest. However, this time, the King of Heaven stretched out his index finger, and a jet-black destructive power directly collided with the impact of the bear. The huge force made the bear's complexion change greatly. He couldn't bear the counter-impact and fell directly into the sea. If he hadn't forcibly twisted his body, he would probably have been submerged by the overturned sea. For this reason, it was internally traumatized, and the collar has been wet with blood. Tiankong Cloud Sword. Golden light flickered, the photons condensed, and a lightsaber appeared in Kizaru's hand, and he slashed it without hesitation at the King of Heaven. And he had no emotions at all. A white wing of the King of Heaven shredded the atmosphere directly, like the sharpest sword, forcibly cut off Kizaru's lightsaber. Pupils shrunk into pinholes, and without thinking about it, Kizaru's heart skipped a beat, and he disappeared in the same place as he elementalized, then dodged to the side. Niu Chong Reckless Thunder Wave. Powerful airflow was running, Ryokugyu stared, and the black thunder of the beast fist shone, as if holding a big mountain, roaring out towards the back of the king. However, a black wing, which turned back, carrying the gang wind, collided with Ryokugyu's beast fist. Ryokugyu was unable to resist due to the powerful force, and even spurted blood, flying backwards like a bear. But at this moment, Garp and Long Yi, left and right, all used their strongest power, causing a sea of power to form around, and violently slammed into the remaining wings of the King of Heaven. How can it be so strong, Diaresis? The distance, Onagumo and others who were watching the battle looked at the Heavenly King, who was still able to gain the upper hand under the siege of the crowd, with a ghostly look. The King of Heaven is far more mysterious and powerful than they thought. Now they understand why it is said that as long as they master any of the three ancient weapons, they can dominate the world. The Heavenly King in front of him is the best interpretation, because marine heroes can only compete with others by cooperating with them. Maybe they didn't use their full strength, but this situation is extremely rare. Shots, the Revolutionary Army leader Long, Marine Admiral, Shichibukai, which one is not a famous monster? The splendid battle, 5 colored brilliance, and 5 people's combined attack, could not take down the King of Heaven for a while, but was suppressed by the King of Heaven as time passed. Slowly started, the battle circle began to move, the whole sky continued to roar, and the sea under everyone's feet was also turbulent. In the end, the battle range stopped on a group of desert islands. At a glance, although there were many large and small islands, they were all desert islands, and there was no life. It's now. The jet black wings struck, and the dragon's eyes narrowed. Sure enough, as he expected, the Heavenly King's movements were somewhat deviated, but it was this small deviation that the dragon found an opportunity to squat, and his right hand turned into a dragon's claw, filled with blue light. It slammed into the king's chest fiercely. PFF'd. Unable to bear, the king did not have any pain, and the mechanical body made the sound of mechanical rollers. After such a long battle, the dragon probably had an idea, but before, it was just an experiment. Find a way, and the next battle will be much simpler. The dragon's idea is to defeat the Queen of Heaven and use it for him. As long as you have mastered the Heavenly King, then the world government will be able to break it at will. Kizaru, there, take down the king. Excited, the dragon shouted to Kizaru and the bear, and then rushed towards the king. And the dragon's previous scene with the king was seen by everyone, so Ryokugyu was anxious. Garp Vice Admiral, the Revolutionary Army cannot get the King of Heaven. I know. Garp gritted his teeth, turned into a cannonball, and directly intercepted the dragon. And Ryokugyu, once again confronted Kizaru. As for the bear, he found the weakness of the king, and even held it by himself. Every time he attacks, the king will have a slight deviation, and this deviation is the opportunity for the bear. The reversal happened too fast. One moment ago, the Heavenly King was invincible, but the next moment, the Heavenly King lost his original terror. If it wasn't for his own experience, it would be unbelievable. Old man, now you still electronic, GT and GT, want to stop me? Punching to the flesh, the dragon turned into a humanoid Tyrannosaurus, and Garp couldn't help but speak. Garp pretended not to hear the dragon's question, and just continued to attack, but subconsciously, he regained more than half of his power. Garp's action made the dragon's eyes light up, and he continued to say, Diaresis, old man, my dream is about to come true. I want to make this world equal and peaceful, leave Marine. The dragon's request made Garp stop attacking. For a while, Garp looked at the dragon in a complicated way, not knowing what to choose. Garp. On the barren hills in the distance, Sengoku clenched his fists and stared at Garp, his bitterness in his heart unbearable. After all, they are father and son whose blood is thicker than water. You unfilial son. Sky, Garp gritted his teeth. He loved and hated his son several times, raised his hand several times, but in the end, there was only a helpless sigh. Garp wasn't stupid. He knew that this time Marine was defeated and struggling to no avail at all. Let Sengoku and the others go. With a serious face, Garp made a compromise. Over the years, he had been tired, and before he knew it, his hair had turned gray, and he was becoming more and more powerless. If Garp, S biggest wishes now, it is to feel the money's family affection, to live with his son and grandson, and to have a peaceful life. As for justice, it is already dispensable. After living most of his life, Garp has long known what justice is. There was no way before, but now, with the erosion of age, Garp's ideas have gradually changed. People are sentimental, not to mention a lonely old man. I don't have to kill them, but I have to control them. When the world government is destroyed and a peaceful world is established, I can let them go. The dragon was very serious, and directly said what was in his heart. Taking a serious look at this son, Garp looked back at the direction of Sengoku and the others, and nodded lightly, clearly making up his mind. Finally, I can finally fight side by side with you, old man. The blue scales all over his body disappeared, and the 10-year-old dragon showed a smile that only a child can have. Chapter 380 Stinky Boy. Seeing the dragon's expression, Garp seemed to recall the past, and couldn't help but slap the dragon directly on the head. Dad, your fist is still so painful. Rubbing his head, Long rolled his eyes. You bastard, go and solve the king. The world government is far stronger than you think. With the king, you can better realize your dreams. Face, a tear flashed in Garp's eyes. It's been a long time, I don't know how long I haven't enjoyed this kind of joy. Garp's betrayal undoubtedly caused the entire marine to fall into an irresistible situation. Glistening, Kizaru fought Ryokugyu, shaking the sky. Kizaru's fighting power displayed at the moment is one level stronger than before. Obviously, Kizaru was hiding in the past, and even now, Kizaru may be the strongest marine admiral, even Kuzan and the previous Akainu are incomparable. Ryokugyu, have you ever been kicked by the light of an eye? Kizaru appeared in the sky above Ryokugyu, his right foot flashed with golden light, and even the atmosphere began to dissipate, making people unable to open their eyes. Silent, Ryokugyu was surrounded by black thunder, staring at the copper bell with big eyes, and the beast fist wrapped the thunder light, facing Kizaru without any hesitation, and attacked 800 in the past. Hey! The moment of brilliance seemed to freeze in time. At the moment of the collision, the sky and the earth turned pale, and Ryokugyu slammed into the islands like a meteor, setting off a terrifying explosion. The entire island split in an instant, endless gravel pierced through the air, and the surrounding sea area seemed to have risen by a rank, and the rivers and the seas were overturned for a long time. Roar! Covering the cloud cover, a hurricane suddenly swayed in the thick dust, and in a sky pit, Ryokugyu raised his head, his face was covered in blood, and he roared angrily. The wounds on his body were visibly healed. So, I hate Zone the most. Golden light condensed, and Kizaru, holding the Amakusa cloud sword in both hands, slashed down at Ryokugyu. The thunder light exploded, Ryokugyu used his abilities, and a thunder trident appeared in his hand, like an overlord holding a tripod, and it suddenly lifted. The huge ripples peeled off the surface, revealing the deep layer of rock, making the entire Tianqing expand again. Ding! Ding! Sparks splashed, the two of you came and went, and an invisible storm formed around, tearing everything recklessly, forming a forbidden area in a radius of 1,000 meters. Speed, Kizaru has the upper hand, but Ryokugyu's physique is too strong, often a scar that can be seen deep in the bone, it will not take long to heal. This is Zone's terrible, but also mythical, awakener. In addition to speed, stamina, endurance, and resilience, Kizaru is not as good as Ryokugyu, and it is difficult to get results if they fight each other. However, for a short time, Ryokugyu had no choice but to passively defend. On the other side, Garp landed in front of Sengoku and the others, looking at the haggard and angry faces, he didn't know how to speak. Garp Vice Admiral, you. Fists, Onagumo's eyes were red, and they were all watching the previous scene. Could it be that the marine hero also betrays marine? Although everyone didn't want to believe it, the fact was in front of them, and they couldn't bear to believe it. With Zephyr, Kuzan, Kizaru and other Admiral's rebellion, Garp's Garp's rebellion is the most unacceptable, because Garp's identity is a marine hero, and his influence is still above Admiral. Garp, are you even going to give up Marine? Sengoku didn't have the anger he imagined, he was just tired, as if he had aged decades. Sengoku's dismayed heart filled Garp with a sigh. Sengoku, we're getting old, maybe it's time to find a place to spend the rest of our lives. That's true. As if laughing at himself and as if unwilling, Sengoku even showed a smile. Go back and take Suru, unfortunately, Zephyr has. Garp's eyes were full of aftertastes, as if he had been quiet in the past years. Garp Vice Admiral, Marshal Sengoku. Ghost Spider, CGAC, Spider and others, opened their mouths, all in a hurry. Compared to the depressed situation here, the battle between Sky, Kizaru, and Ryokugyu has reached a fever pitch, while on the bear side, the situation is somewhat evenly matched. However, with the addition of the dragon, it started slowly, and the king couldn't hold it anymore. After fighting for so long, the dragon got an approximate result. The king has unparalleled destructive power, but the defense is not very strong. Falling from the sky, the feathers of the machine fell, a ray of light shone, and the towering peaks collapsed. In the gravel pits all over the ground, the King of Heaven lay on the ground, covered in blood. As if feeling no pain, the Heavenly King floated up, his four wings bloomed, and the dense black and white light spots began to appear again. Tianwang, I'm going to fix you. The figure is solid, the dragon appears in front of the king, his eyes are full of light, and the storm and thunder in his hands condensed, and gradually compressed into a chain of energy thunder, trying to completely trap the king. That's right, the dragon's natal ability is to command wind, rain and thunder, and it has the power to control the weather. Compared with other mythical awakeners, the dragon's natal ability is even more terrifying. The action of the dragon aroused the resistance of the King of Heaven, and a black and white light beam that penetrated the sky and the earth stood up, connecting the heaven and the earth, and then the four wings flashed, and the endless divine brilliance instantly drowned the dragon. The hairs exploded, and Long felt the danger of death, and without thinking about it, he gave up the attack and chose to evacuate. Wow! The uproar, the terrifying destructive power, dissipated everything and left the horizon. Suspended in the air, Long looked at the separated sea and the long-lasting abyss, and cold sweat dripped from his forehead. Pressure cannon. The king's attack on the dragon made the bear find the void, and his right hand was directly printed on the back of the king. The impact that had been compressed for a long time directly stirred the inside of the king's body. Z. The body of the machine gradually began to collapse, and the electric current was chaotic. Dragon rope. The bear's attack caused the king to be severely injured. In an emergency, the dragon also took action, using his life ability to compress the energy to the maximum extent, forming a chain of lightning, which bound the body of the king. As if uneasy, in the end, the dragon gritted his teeth and made a few more chains of lightning, inside and out, trapping the king into a zongzi, only his head popped out. However, Tianwang struggled violently, seeing that the chain of lightning was about to collapse, but he still couldn't break free. In the end, for some unknown reason, Tianwang stopped struggling, the light all over his body dissipated, and then he stood still like a sculpture. It worked. With a face full of excitement, Long looked at the calm king, his heartbeat was accelerating, and immediately, he would be able to master the most powerful ancient weapon. However, just when the dragon was excited, a sudden, icy killing intent enveloped the whole world, causing almost all the surviving people to feel a chill on their backs, full of horror.